do know this now for a fact. Randy Couture has elected not to defend his heavyweight title. And another knee. Rutten's taken over. Rutten's taken over. It's over. Rutten has won his UFC debut. Randleman finishes with the flurry. Impressive debut for the young gun, Kevin Randleman.
The road to the UFC Heavyweight Championship has covered 5 months, 6 competitors, and 3 UFCs. Tonight, the road will end. Boss Rutten versus Kevin Randleman for the UFC Heavyweight Championship of the world. UFC 20 is next.
The Octagon returns to this cosmopolitan town in the heart of Dixie. Proud of its role in the civil rights movement, a statue of Martin Luther King stands in front of the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. Birmingham preserves the lushness of the South Inland Park, and it's a city that embodies America's love affair with sports at Rickwood Field, the oldest baseball park in America, where Willie Mays led the Black Barons to the 1948 Negro League Championship. Legendary Coach Bear Bryant is immortalized atop his famous slogan, and those words certainly apply tonight to the athletes who will be inside the world-famous Octagon. Welcome inside Boutwell Auditorium here in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. Once again, we come to the Magic City for the 4th time for the UFC. This is the one, the only, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and we are happy that the Octagon gates are once again open. Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Goldberg, and welcome to UFC 20. As we just mentioned, for the past 4 months, we have talked about the road to the heavyweight title. Tonight, it culminates here in Birmingham, Alabama. We have had great lightweight champions, great middleweight champions, but for some reason, America and the world has a love affair with a heavyweight fighter. My favorite heavyweight is my partner, the Olympic gold medalist, Jeff Blatnick. Why does everybody love a heavyweight?
Well, I think when you look at lightweights and middleweights, they possess tremendous skill. But if the heavyweight possesses tremendous skill, his body is larger, thus he has an edge. And I really think when 200, 300-pound bodies go flying through the air or crumple down onto the ground, it is an exciting sight. People get turned on by it. And of course, we're larger and we can influence our will.
And they will influence their wills tonight because there will be many heavyweight matchups on the card this evening here in Birmingham. We also have a couple of very good lightweight matchups to bring to you, including the young man nicknamed Fists of Fury, LaVerne Clark, back inside the gates taking on Fabiano Iha.
A good classic matchup against striker and grappler, Clark being the striker.
No question, Wanderlei Silva wants some redemption from his embarrassment in Brazil at the hands of Vitor Belfort. He takes on newcomer Tony Petarra.
Well, he led with his face and Belfort caught him, a tremendous puncher. But Silva is also a tremendous puncher. We didn't see how good he truly is. Petarra, a good ground worker.
No question, Petarra has great ground skills. David Roberts has both ground skills and striking skills. He takes on Marcelo Mello.
They're both newcomers. Everybody knows when you're a newcomer to the UFC, until you've proven yourself, we really can't tell what their style will be.
And then we get to the heavyweights. 3 matchups on the card this evening. The ever so popular Pete Williams, who in his career has defeated Mark the Hammer Coleman, taking on Travis Fulton.
And he also beat Jason Godsey in his last outing. He's on a roll. He's put himself in the heavyweight picture. However, Travis Fulton, by far, the American with the most fights, most experience in mixed martial arts.
Pete Williams in the best shape of his life. Pedro Rizzo, one of the most dangerous men in the world. Remember how he knocked out Tank Abbott.
Rizzo has been on a tear. He has improved himself physically, as has Pete Williams. Trey Telligman, a loss to Belfort, a defeat of Brad Kohler. He is looking to get himself in the picture. Should be a good fight.
And in the main event for the UFC Heavyweight Championship of the World, to tell you who the greatest mixed martial artist in the heavyweight division is in our universe, Boss Rutten and Kevin Randleman.
Legendary martial artist, Boss Rutten, kickboxing, did pancrase in Japan, great mix of striking and grappling skills. Kevin Randleman, the consummate wrestler, 2-time NCAA champion, workout mate with former champion Mark Coleman. So he knows ground and pound. He went after Maurice Smith with strikes. One can never know how he's going to approach here. This is a great fight for the termination of the road to the heavyweight title. At that end of the road, who's going to be occupying the throne?
Now we look forward to that later this evening. As always, we have 3 fine judges in case they have to render a decision in any of our matchups tonight. Tim Catalfo from Atlanta, Georgia, co-owner of the Obaki Fight School and Goldberg Gymnasium, an undefeated mixed martial artist himself. Skip Hall out of Birmingham, Alabama, World Karate Union Hall of Famer, and Dan Miragliotti out of Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey, owner of the Bayside Academy of Martial Arts. The lightweights on the card for the first matchup this evening, and it is the young man nicknamed Fists of Fury, LaVerne Clark, taking on newcomer Fabiano Iha out of Florianópolis, Brazil. LaVerne Clark, an ultimate fighter who is truly one of the finest boxers in the world, looking forward to tonight's re-entrance into the octagon. This will be his 3rd time in the UFC.
With his victory in the alternate fight at UFC 16, LaVerne Fist of Fury Clark became the first pure boxer to win in UFC competition. He returned at UFC 18 and again took the alternate bout victory to bring his UFC record to an unblemished 2-0. Tonight, LaVerne Clark brings his undefeated record and free-swinging style to the main draw and attempts to make a name for himself in the UFC's lightweight division.
I look at this fight as a stepping stone to get to the top. You know, I know which way I'm headed, and that's to the top. And it's just another stepping stone to get to the top.
You know what I mean? If the fight go down, he come to my game, it's gonna be much better for me. I've been training to at least, you know, stay up with him if that happen, you know. But I wish I can bring the fight to the ground and play my game. I don't want to play his game. I don't need to prove nothing, stand up. You know what I mean? I don't need to prove. I just want to win.
Our first fighter this evening to enter the octagon here at UFC 20 is the Jiu-Jitsu and Ruas Vale-Tudo specialist, Fabiano Iha. Ruas Vale-Tudo is a very honorable sport, and with Marco Ruas in his corner, Fabio has great confidence. Again, he is from Brazil, now fighting out of Huntington Beach, California. Moved to America 3 years ago. Perhaps somewhere in his future, he wants to be a movie stuntman. He also always wanted to compete in the UFC. He gets that opportunity tonight.
Well, his strengths are his groundwork, submission skills, and especially arm bars. Of his 8 victories, 7 of them have come by submission using the arm bar. So LaVerne Clark best be ready that if he gets caught in a mount position or gets his arms extended away from his body, this athlete here, Fabiano Iha, is very capable of slapping on a submission and ending the fight quickly.
As Fabiano just said, if it gets to the ground, he enters my world. And we welcome back LaVerne Clark, 25 years old. He is undefeated inside the octagon. This is his 3rd UFC. Remember, he beat Joe Carassi in New Orleans in UFC 18. Won his debut also in New Orleans against Josh Stewart, the first boxer, as was mentioned before, to win a UFC match. And he is truly a pure boxer at base. But remember, he wrestled in high school, so he's 35-0. He's a boxer. There's no question his knockout ability is his biggest weapon.
And at this point in his career, that is what he is focused on. He is someone that likes to use his hands. He's a KO-style puncher, big bombs he's capable of throwing. However, that wrestling background will prevent people from coming in trying to rush his legs. He's very good at countering. We've seen him stop takedowns, and while the people are hanging on the legs, deliver strikes.
Tail of the tape for our lightweight matchup here at UFC 20 between LaVerne Clark and Fabiano Iha, both under 170 pounds as they need to be. The reach of LaVerne Clark is something you should look for. He is 3 inches taller. The boxer against the Jiu-Jitsu black belt in our first fight of the night. For the official introductions, the veteran voice of the UFC, his 11th UFC, here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Boutwell Auditorium in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. Tonight, SCG Sports presents 12 of the finest mixed martial artists in the world, and they will all compete in the world's ultimate testing ground, the Octagon. This is UFC 20, the battle for the gold. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the fighters are ready. The fans of Alabama are ready. Those of you watching around the world are ready. Because now, it's time to begin the Ultimate Fighting Championship! Our first fight is a lightweight fight beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is a Vale Tudo expert with a mixed martial arts record of 8-0. Standing 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighing in at 168 pounds, he originally hails from Florianópolis, Brazil. Tonight, he makes his Octagon debut. Please welcome Fabiano Iha. And his opponent, standing to my right, he is a boxer with a mixed martial arts record of 5-2. He is a former Golden Gloves champion and veteran of UFC 16 and UFC 18. Standing 5 feet 11 inches tall, weighing in at 169 pounds, fighting out of Davenport, Iowa. Please welcome LaVerne, Fists of Fury Clark. And when the action begins, our referee is Mario Yamasaki.
Remember the ways to win: by knockout, by submission if a referee stops the contest, if the corner throws in the towel, by disqualification, or if time expires. Three judges render a decision. Mario Yamasaki, our alternate referee. They touch out of respect, and here we go. Fabiano Iha and LaVerne Clark.
Iha looking like he wanted to throw a punch, trying to bait Clark in, and threw a heavy kick.
Clark has that big reach advantage that I talked about a moment ago, Jeff. Perhaps that'll be a factor.
Iha trying to use some motion here to keep distance. He knows Clark is a puncher.
LaVerne with the left.
And a right uppercut hit him.
Now Iha trying to get him to the ground. Couldn't shoot, misses again. If he closes the gap too much with those kicks, he opens himself to LaVerne Clark's very dangerous right hand.
He got hit. He got hit twice, especially the uppercut.
Clark is coming off some very impressive boxing victories. And again, he delivers the left.
Oh, he's
now
going for the ankle.
submission.
Going
Looking
for an
for
ankle.
a submission.
Heel hook, or maybe twisting on the ankle there. He's got him locked out.
We have not seen a tap at this point. LaVerne trying to spin out of it. Can he get the heel hook? Yamasaki stepping in, has bloodied up badly. It's Fabiano Iha. And the fight broken up for a moment here.
The fight's not over yet. They gotta let
I'm not sure what exactly happened, whether that was the end of the fight or whether they're checking for a doctor to look at this cut. Yes, that's what he did. The doctor's come in.
Look at the punches that LaVerne Clark delivers here. Oh, he slipped. Fabiano slipped, and then he got hit big.
That left hand right there is the one that did it to him. Knocked him right down. But once he hit the ground here, Iha did not want to let Clark stay on his feet, so he immediately started hooking up ankles, looking to try to submit him here. And I believe once that cut opened up, the referee, Mario Yamasaki, wanted the doctor to go ahead and look at that cut. And that's it. He's going to stop the fight because of the gash.
He is indeed, and Fabiano disappointed because, in all fairness, he did slip when LaVerne Clark was able to deliver that combination and opens up the forehead of Fabiano Iha. For the official results, here is Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the doctor has stopped the fight due to a cut at 1 minute and 33 seconds for the winner, LaVerne Fists of Fury, Clark.
Well, the cut is what stopped this fight, and it was all set up by this flurry here. That left right there is what put Iha on his back on the ground. Clark would go after him there, but Iha would start to go after submission locks, but the cut was started there. Earlier in the fight, it was Clark dominating with his punching power and his ability to keep Iha away from his legs, stopping the takedown. That kept his striking range open. That's the beginning of the end. That was the slip by Iha, and once he slipped, he could never regain his balance without LaVerne Clark being ready to throw a punch. And once he landed on the ground, he tied up Clark's leg to keep him there. But the cut was already started from that vicious left hand, and in the end, Mario Yamasaki, the referee, felt that cut was dangerous. It was blinding Iha, and so he had Dr. Istrico come in, and Dr. Istrico gave the match medical termination there because of the cut. Your victor, LaVerne Clark, and Mike Goldberg is with our winner.
Well, thank you very much, LaVerne. First of all, congratulations, another victory inside the octagon.
Thank you.
LaVerne, before we get to the positives, you just said to me, man, he had my ankle a little bit. Did he have you in a bit of trouble?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank God to be able to survive it. You know, we both come back again. Yeah, he had my ankle. He was about to rip it off. I had to do something to get him out of there.
Pat Miletich and I were talking earlier, and he said the one thing he's been working with you on, LaVerne, is to be more conscientious of avoiding submissions.
Yes, we've been working on getting away from the ground, you know, staying up, working on my ground too at the same time.
Now let's get to the positive. Your boxing skill once again reigns supreme. Tell me about why you are so confident inside the octagon with what you call your fists of fury.
Well, I have a plan. The plan is to be a world champion because I have a big message for the world. And I think it's good to wait till I be a championship to let the world know, because I want the whole world to see it and know it.
We did see on the replay, and I know you probably noticed that Fabiano was trying to set up for a kick, and he slipped a little bit. That opened him up for your left-right combination.
Well, I knew he was going to be on the ground. He wanted to go on the ground and work with me. I knew he was going to be doing some kicking and ankle locks and try to do something like that, but I wanted to stay away from that as much as possible. I've been working on, you know, how to get out of them ankle locks a lot.
Well, you did a great job again today. As you learned from Pat Miletich, you were trying to spin away so that he couldn't get the leverage, correct?
Yes, sir.
LaVerne, congratulations on another victory.
Thank you very much.
LaVerne Clark, Fists of Fury, doing a great job here tonight, and now he moves to 3-0 in the UFC. And I know one man who is very proud of LaVerne Clark, is no question about it, is Pat Miletich. Pat Miletich, the lightweight champion of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and Pat about to join me now. And Pat, first of all, let's talk about once again one of your fine students, LaVerne Clark, Fists of Fury, so dangerous.
Well, I'm also one of his students. He helps me with my boxing. I help him with his submission grappling. You know, I spar with him a lot, and he hits very hard. I bleed like that every time I spar with him, so I know how it feels. We knew that coming into the fight, he was just too strong for Fabiano, and we doubted that Fabiano was going to be able to deal with his punching power.
Fabiano did slip a little bit, but he did have, and LaVerne just admitted it, an attempt on a heel lock. And you told me before tonight's fight that one thing LaVerne has to do, though, is be conscientious about falling into a submission.
Yeah, even though Verne's, you know, not spent that much time learning submissions, he is a very strong guy. He's got a lot of leverage, and it's even with him not knowing how to get out of them that well, you know, after years of practice like most guys have, he naturally senses the pressure and knows, you know, how to seek daylight and get out of them usually.
Let's talk about you now. We are looking forward to July because you will once again defend your lightweight title. You are the lightweight champion of the world in the UFC. Looking forward to the next defense of your title?
Yeah, definitely. I've got some motivation now. You know, I feel I need to prove myself, without a doubt.
You have defended your title a couple times. You're undefeated inside the octagon, but you are often criticized for the fact that you almost lull your opponent to sleep. The matches always go the distance, you always win, but you've never been a big striker, at least inside our gates. Is that a fair criticism, a criticism you might put on yourself, Pat?
Yeah, you know, at times I feel like I do play it too safe, but when a world title belt is on the line, you see a lot of guys come in here and go balls to the wall and make some mistakes and lose the fight. I make the guy fight my fight, no matter what the pace I want it to be at, he's going to fight my pace. Early on in my career, I fought very hard and beat a lot of people up, you know, badly. And as I learned and got better at technique, I think some of the killer instinct was trained out of me a little bit. But I've decided after watching myself on tape that I need to pick it up a little bit more. And in sparring, I'm no longer following people around and letting them kick and punch me. I'm dropping them now. So that's what I plan on doing in July.
We look forward to that. Pat, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Pat Miletich will defend his title, the lightweight crown, in July. We will next convene in Cedar Rapids, Iowa on July 16th. It'll be UFC 21. Pat Miletich defends his UFC lightweight title. And in a feature heavyweight matchup, that man, Marco Ruas, who was the king of the UFC after the brawl in Buffalo, UFC 7 back in September of 1995, defeating Paul Varlins. Marco Ruas then lost a controversial decision in a later UFC. 4 years later, he will re-enter the octagon to take on this man, a very diligent champion, one of the best kickboxers in the world, the ever so popular Maurice Smith, who pulled off the greatest upset in UFC history with his victory that you saw a moment ago against Mark Coleman. It will come your way in July. Pat Miletich defends his UFC lightweight title. Maurice Smith takes on Marco Ruas July 16th in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And we just talked to Pat Miletich about his title defense, and I'd like to see him come out aggressively. He is a very dangerous mixed martial artist.
The key in any fighting is winning, and Pat Miletich wins. So whether it's flashy or whether it's basic and fundamental, the key to winning is executing properly. Pat Miletich, great lightweight champion.
Great experienced young man. Our next fight is a middleweight matchup. Is Wanderlei Silva will have an opportunity tonight to display his great skills in the United States, a dream come true. He'll take on a submission fighter out of the state of California named Tony Petarra, as Tony Petarra puts his team on the UFC map for the first time ever. The Shark Tank competition team. Tony Petarra takes on Wanderlei Silva, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu man who was beaten by Vitor Belfort.
Highly touted Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai fighter Wanderlei Silva made his UFC debut in his home country at Ultimate Brazil. Silva immediately found himself on the wrong side of a Vitor Belfort flurry of punches and lost the match in under a minute. Experts agree, and a mixed martial arts record of 8-2 confirms that this Brazilian has more up his sleeve than what the UFC saw on that night last October. Tonight, Wanderlei Silva looks to set the record straight.
The last time I was bad luck. Now I will show to the world, to everybody, the real Wanderlei.
Beanie is a stand-up fighter. I'd like to take him out early because I think he'll stay too relaxed and I don't think he'll gas out too fast. So I'd like to take him out early. Plus, I don't like to string it on. You know, I don't want to fatigue any more than he does. Make it a quick victory.
Well, Tony said he does not want to play his game, that game of Wanderlei Silva. Both are very well versed in submissions. Unquestionably, Wanderlei Silva with his Muay Thai, the better striker. Tony Petarra, 32 years old, 5'11", 196 pounds, fighting for Team Shark Tank. His trainer is Eddie Mills. He's a pro kickboxer. So while it is conditioning, submission, and groundwork being the strengths of Petarra, he has worked on his striking ability. He said, I've seen him fight Vitor Belfort, speaking of Wanderlei Silva, and he knows that Wanderlei did not have a good day. He has a chance to take his shot tonight, and no doubt Tony Petarra very excited about this opportunity this evening.
Now, Petarra is a submission specialist and really lacks the kind of striking experience that Wanderlei Silva does. And when you heard him saying take him out, he means get him on the ground and lock him up. Nope. So he is someone that wants the fight to go to the ground, not stay on the feet trading bombs.
Well, when talking about the Vitor Belfort fight, Wanderlei Silva admitted he committed a technical mistake. Vitor capitalized on it. And tonight, a dream comes true for 22-year-old Wanderlei Silva from Curitiba, PR, Brazil. Fighting out of the fine country of Brazil. He doesn't speak any English, but his dream has always been to fight in the United States of America. And tonight he gets to try to earn some redemption after being knocked out 47 seconds into his UFC debut at the hands of Vitor Belfort.
Well, Belfort launched multiple punches, all of them very accurate, taking Silva out. But one has to remember, before that fight, it was Wanderlei Silva who destroyed Mike Van Arsdale, someone that was looking for a title shot here at the UFC. Silva is dangerous. When Vitor Belfort is on, his fists can go with anybody in the UFC. But Silva has more than just what he showed against Vitor Belfort. He wants to repeat the kind of performance he got against Mike Van Arsdale. We may see those kinds of skills shine tonight.
Tail of the tape for our middleweight matchup. Perhaps one of these men will fight for the middleweight title somewhere down the road in the UFC. 10 years difference in age. Silva much younger. Both about the same statistics because of this being a middleweight bout. For the official introductions, we re-enter the octagon. And here's Bruce Buffer.
Our next fight is a middleweight fight, beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is a submission fighter with a mixed martial arts record of 6-0-2. Standing 6 feet tall, weighing in at 196 pounds, fighting out of Rancho Cucamonga, California, and he is now making his octagon debut. Please welcome Tony Petarra. And his opponent, standing to my right, a Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu fighter with a mixed martial arts record of 8-2 and a Muay Thai record of 15-0. He is a two-time Brazilian Muay Thai champion and a veteran of Ultimate Brazil. Standing 6 feet tall, weighing in at 199 pounds and fighting out of Curitiba, Brazil. Please welcome Wanderlei
Wanderlei Silva 0-1. His first U.S. appearance inside the octagon. Once again, our alternate referee, Mario Yamasaki from Brazil, originally now working in the Washington, D.C. area.
Are you ready?
We'll start the fight.
Are you ready? Let's go!
Here we go. A middleweight matchup, and Petarra comes out quickly and gets a shoot into the waist of Wanderlei Silva, closing any potential striking distance.
It's a good tactic if you want to beat a striker, get in tight to him or stay outside of him and wait for the big punch that causes him to take a step to catch himself and then go under again.
Now, with the Muay Thai background, the knees are definitely a weapon that Wanderlei Silva possesses.
And what I don't like what Petarra is doing here is just that the action is stalled, which is allowing for those kinds of knees to be thrown. He needs to keep motion so that Silva is threatened to be taken down. If he stops and just hangs on, those knees are going to start to come up.
Now, Tony's first entrance into the octagon is tonight. Petarra did win the recent Boss Rutten Invitational, which had almost the identical rules to our UFC here, Jeff, except there was open hand striking when the match went to the mat. The knee's still a weapon being utilized here early by Wanderlei Silva.
That knee came all the way up and just missed. Great flexibility, and that's that Muay Thai background. Using lots of knees, bringing them up high, holding the head down.
Now Tony Petarra is trying to neutralize the leg somewhat by grabbing onto the right leg of Wanderlei Silva.
Oh, his head is wide open. If he pulls it to the center, that right knee is going to keep coming up. He's got to stay off to the side and try to keep an angle.
Now is Wanderlei holding on to Tony now?
He's got his head tucked underneath in what we call a double underhook counter. The problem with this is in wrestling, you don't have to deal with strikes, and right now he's dealing with the knees of Wanderlei Silva. He needs to move. He needs to rotate. As he rotates, defend against the knee that he's leaving behind. That's the one that Silva will be able to throw and get his head out from under there. As long as his head's under there, he's pinned in. He really can't move.
Tony trying to just move that head ever so slightly, anticipating the knees of Wanderlei Silva. So Silva, at least right now, I know he's very pleased. He's getting to demonstrate his skills a bit more. 2 minutes in. This is a 12-minute matchup with a 3-minute overtime if needed.
The other thing that Silva can, or excuse me, Petarra can do is if Silva's knee comes up high enough, why not just snatch the leg and try to use that right away for a takedown? But I think part of the problem with snatching the leg here is that he's got both arms tied up by Silva being underneath both of them.
Now, as you know, they have to keep busy, and that one connected to the midsection. That left knee a moment ago of Tony Petarra, as he just winced a bit. They've got to keep busy on the fencing, or Mario Yamasaki will separate him. There's a hard knee and another.
He's down. He's down. That's going to do it.
And the fight is over. Wanderlei Silva with the knockout. A dream come true for Wanderlei Silva. He wins his U.S. debut inside the octagon.
Richard Istrico in, checking over Tony Petarra, talking with him. But it was Wanderlei Silva, a tremendous tactic. He knew that it seemed, he just sensed that the knees were the weapon of choice based on Petarra's attack of trying to tie up the upper body. He really used a Greco-Roman style wrestling approach and muscle him down. And eventually he was able to get that knee up between the two arms of Petarra, caught him square on the head.
Congratulations to Wanderlei Silva. Here's the official results.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner by knockout. Wanderlei Silva.
The knockout comes 2 minutes and 53 seconds into this second entrance into the octagon for that young man. Very happy, Wanderlei Silva. And he will, you can trust me, move on to fight another day. Another talented middleweight to go along with Frank Shamrock and others. This division is so darn deep.
And the one big thing here is this is a tremendous confidence boost. The last time he was in a big fight, he got mauled by Vitor Belfort. But in this one, he was able to fend off the early attack of Tony Petarra. Petarra trying to muscle using upper body tactics to try to get the takedown. And it failed. He was unable at all here to muscle him down. And in fact, it was Silva who then used this position to his advantage using big knees. He would tie up the head of Petarra, pulling it down, and then bring the knees up. And either it landed in the midsection or up near the head. And eventually it was going to be this tactic, the knees, because he didn't have the space to really use his hands, that he would find the opening, bring that knee up hard, and it was there that he really nailed him, knocked him to the ground. And of course, Mario Yamasaki, the referee, doing a great job of intervening and stopping the fight. Another look here. Again, those knees are coming up, and Silva is relentless with him. And once he got him down there, he had tremendous leverage to pull the knee up. And tremendous technique by Wanderlei Silva, big confidence boost. He is now looking to put himself back into the middleweight title.
Well, a great bit of redemption, as you said, Jeff, and a very relieved young man. Wanderlei Silva, overwhelmed by Vitor Belfort in his home country, comes to America and basically overwhelms newcomer Tony Petarra. Thanking the Lord, indeed a very religious, strong belief man. And congratulations to Wanderlei Silva, proving to us again that the middleweight division in the Ultimate Fighting Championship is the deepest of all the divisions. And I'll tell you what, one man who creates the depth of talent in that middleweight division is this man sitting next to me, the Huntington bad boy, Tito Ortiz. Tito, first of all, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Tito, you were looking at the replays with me. You were pretty impressed with Wanderlei Silva.
Yeah, very much. I mean, I saw a lot of good knees happening there. Wow. You get stuck with underhooks like that, you got to get out of there. If not, see the damage he did. It was some pretty good damage, though. Very good.
Well, certainly his Muay Thai background and using the tactic of trying to go upper body wrestling-wise, something you're familiar with, and then really not being affected with it, he just hung on. And once you hang on, you allow the opportunity for your opponent to start offense.
Well, actually, I mean, you have to pretty much circle and get out of the position. So you get in a bad position like that, you can't stay and push the guy up against the fence. You got to learn to circle and get him out. As you've seen, I mean, God, those knees were devastating. And that's pretty much how he finished it.
And he controlled the head, it seemed, Tito, and Tony couldn't pull away, right?
Very good head control. He just stopped. I mean, I don't know if Tony does a lot of wrestling, but in that position, man, it's underhook, pick him off his feet, or circle and take him down, one or the other.
Well, Tito, how do you think you would approach a fight against Wanderlei Silva, or perhaps somebody else in the middleweight picture?
Do what I've been doing in the beginning, dominate. That's what I try to do. I mean, I use my wrestling background, and punches come. I just see what happens through the fight.
Let's talk and let's focus in on your career, Tito. You have taken out 2 Lions Den fighters, and we all know the reputation of the Lions Den is one that everyone admires because they have been as successful as any group in America. You showed some great vengeance. You showed a lot of emotion last time. You've become truly the bad boy of the middleweight division. Is that okay with you? And how would you assess your young UFC career so far?
Actually, it came up real quick here on the hill. I take a couple quick steps, and all of a sudden I'm at the top of the game, top of the food chain. I don't know. Hopefully Frank Shamrock will want to come out and sign the contract, and hopefully he'll come in here and have a little fun. Which every single time I bring a little characteristic out of myself and have fun in the octagon. So give it out to my fans.
Tito, is that what you want? Do you want Frank Shamrock?
Yes, at this point, yeah. From right now, I mean, I have beat up on his 2 #1 guys in the, that he used to train with. So I don't know if he has a doubt in his mind maybe, or if he does want to fight, but I mean, Frank Shamrock, I never had no problem with him. He's a totally nice guy. I respect him, 110%. He wouldn't be a world champion right now if not that was so.
Well, Tito, let me ask you something. How much can you improve? You say you're young at it and how quickly the success has come for you. You're now near the top, but how are you going to get better? What is it going to take for you to realize your full potential?
Well, actually, I've been working with John Lober and working on my submission with my leg locks and arm locks, chokes. I've been working a lot on my ground skills and with my stand-up Muay Thai kickboxing with John Spencer, and that's helped me out 110%. So hopefully, I've only been in this for 3 years now, and those guys have been fighting for 8, 9, 10 years. So hopefully, I'm a young kid and have fun in this. That's what it's about. You don't have fun, how can you fight, man?
Tito, it's true, and you have showed a lot of emotion, a lot of pure emotion and excitement, and that's what we love about this sport is new talent like yourself. But you spoke of John Lober, and John's a great fighter, one of the best mixed martial artists in the world. But when he fought Frank Shamrock in Brazil, Frank perhaps was at his best.
Yes.
And Frank overtook John Lober, so what makes you believe that you can beat Frank Shamrock?
I'm a lot bigger and younger and a lot more smug of myself. I mean, hopefully I'll go out there and pound on him. That's what I plan to do. Watch out for all submissions. When Lober fought him just his last fight, Lober wasn't at his top. I mean, I've seen him 110% better. It was just his night. I mean, in this type of fighting, no one knows. It's like everybody could be at the top game. It don't matter. Every guy that's so good in here, everything happens different each night. I mean, world champion can lose one night, the next night you come around and turn and win it again. You never know what happens.
And a couple of good fighters making their UFC debuts. David Roberts, just 19 years old, taking on Marcelo Mello, 26 years old, out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. David Roberts, out of Jacksonville, now fighting out of Memphis, Tennessee.
Fighting as a sport, I love just because the competition, it's one-on-one, it's man against man. It's not really a team thing. For instance, like football, you rely on other people. Here it's, you rely on yourself. You have nobody else to back you up.
I am comfortable in both situations, on the top or on the bottom. I'm going to try to control him and put him on the ground. But if he put me on the ground, I am comfortable too. I have a great skill techniques on my guard. That's okay for me.
Well, Marcelo started his training with Wanderlei Gracie in Brazil at 19 years old. His opponent tonight, David Roberts, just 19 years old. 5'7", 169 pounds. Now fighting out of Astoria, New York, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu master. Self-trained and managed by Jose Luis Casamatore. Saying about his opponent, he has not heard of him, but it does not matter who I fight. He has competed in 55 matches in Jiu-Jitsu, winning all but 4 of those. He fought in the 1995 Vale Tudo Open in Brazil and won his match by knockout from the mount. So let's watch for that possibility. One of his heroes, Vitor Belfort, Mario Sperry and Hoyler Gracie. Every jiu-jitsu master knows about the Gracies, as we do here at the UFC.
Now the Gracies with a great tradition here. Hooking up with Hoyler is going to do nothing but improve him. We've seen that you do need good leadership, people to train you that can observe and see more than you can just see yourself. So the self-training thing is good that you have that kind of incentive and enthusiasm, but you need good leadership to help you out.
In all likelihood, if you look at the profiles of this fight, David Roberts and Marcelo Mello should spend a lot of time on the mat, but you never know when the octagon gates are closed. David Roberts is 19, as I mentioned. He's 6'1", from Jacksonville, Florida, fighting out of Memphis, Tennessee. He is a wrestler who considers himself a submissions-oriented wrestler as opposed to a ground and pound wrestler. He's never competed in UFC rules prior to moments from now.
Now, both of these athletes are new to the octagon, so they're experiencing something that you know, most people can not even imagine, hearing the bolt on that door slam shut. But they're also highly trained. They understand each other, and I think Roberts, you know, he has a brother Joey who was in UFC 19. He lost to Siani Latu, but many feel at that point in the fight he was actually turning the table and winning, but he suffered a cut, or actually a broken nose, excuse me, and the bleeding, they had to stop the fight.
Tail of the tape here in this lightweight matchup between Marcelo Mello and David Roberts. As I mentioned, the one man, only 19 years old. His brother Joey, as Jeff mentioned, fought at UFC 19. Marcelo's 26, 7 inches difference, or more than that, pardon me, 9 inches difference. So let's look for the reach of David Roberts. For the official introductions, here is Bruce Buffer.
Our next event is a lightweight bout beginning with the fighter that's standing to my left. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter with a tournament record of 51-4. Standing 5 feet, 7 inches tall, weighing in at 169 pounds. He is originally from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and is now fighting out of Astoria, New York. Please welcome Marcelo Mello. And his opponent, standing to my right, he is a wrestler with a record of 4-0 in shoot fighting. Standing 6 feet, 1 inch tall, weighing in at 169 pounds. He's fighting out of Memphis, Tennessee, and tonight is making his octagon debut. Please welcome David Roberts. And our referee for the rest of the evening is Big John McCarthy.
With newcomers, our first chance to introduce Big John McCarthy. His 23rd UFC, a constant since UFC 2.
Here we go, you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on, come on.
The 4 most famous words in the UFC, let's get it on. David Roberts, Marcelo Mello in a lightweight matchup before we feature heavyweights for the remainder of the night. The quickness of the lightweights is always something to look for.
These are two people that like the ground game, so it's interesting here. They're measuring each other out with striking distance. Ooh, nice front kick there. Mello.
The quickness is just so devastating. As Mello and Roberts kind of size each other up. The emotions now are past them because it is time to get it on, as Big John McCarthy talked about. There's a shoot, a double leg.
He's going to get it. Nice lift. That's the best thing he can do, and he's going to look to knee here, potentially here from the side mount. So he could be throwing a right knee right now.
Come on, take your time.
It's almost as Roberts heard you because he protected that side of his head with the left.
Full mount.
And this is a dangerous spot. Oh, elbows. Uh-oh, he showed his back. Roberts shows his back.
Watch your back of the head.
John McCarthy, right inside. Strikes to the back of the head are not allowed under UFC rules.
The elbows to the back of the head are not allowed. You can use a forearm, but I think that's going to be it. He never got off his belly to defend himself. Never got off his belly to defend himself.
A fight is stopped when a fighter cannot intelligently defend himself. So the fight is stopped 1 minute And 23 seconds in, Marcelo Mello victorious in this lightweight matchup.
It's something that is pointed out in the fighter manager meetings each time, and that is if you turn to your belly to defend yourself and cover your head and do nothing but absorb blows, don't do any kind of movement, skill, or offense to change the position, the referee will intervene. And in that case, Big John McCarthy saw repeated blows to the head. Roberts did not do anything to change the position. He stopped the fight.
Breathe. You got more adrenaline than anything.
But Mello, very impressive. Able to get to the mount position. That's a specialty of his style, jiu-jitsu. He wanted to take his opponent down. He wanted to get on top. Jiu-jitsu considers the mount the most dangerous position. Up the buffer. Let's look back here. There's the initial confrontation. A nice front kick by Mello. Made Roberts think twice about walking straight in. But it was Mello who was pressing for a takedown, wanted to get inside range so he could reach the legs. He was able to do so, and here does a beautiful lift, dumping his opponent. And by lifting that way, you get yourself to a side mount immediately. Very smart tactic. And then from that side mount, he would gain full mount and start raining blows. Roberts would turn to his stomach and never move from this position. He was blocking many of those blows, but as they're told in the fighter meeting, if you turn your back to your opponent on the ground and cover your head, if you do nothing to improve that position and absorb blows, John McCarthy will stop the fight. And McCarthy was warning him about his striking anywhere in the back of the head with an elbow. And then once he saw him hitting the side of the head repeatedly, jumped in. Another angle on that. You can see the power that Mello is getting to generate into the side of his head. And let's go to Mike Goldberg with our winner, Marcelo Mello.
I'll tell you what, Marcelo, so far a night for the Brazilians. Congratulations on your victory.
Thank you. I want to, first of all, thank for my family, that I love him, and thank for the guy from the Ultimate for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Did it go as you planned, this first debut in the Ultimate Fighting Championship?
Yeah. For many other fighters, this is the finish. For me, it's the beginning. I hope fight more than 10 Ultimates if I can.
What was it that you felt you could do effectively? What was your biggest asset coming into the octagon tonight?
Man, you have to be ready, you know, for all kind of situations, all kind of positions. You can commit a mistake right here, you know. Here's the judgment. I call this day like the judgment day. It's a day to prove who have the best skills and techniques.
Let's take a look at some of the fight, and I know you were just watching it with me. You were very impressive with your strikes. From the down position, you used the back of the arm very well.
Yeah, I study a lot that kind of situation. I studied with my friend Royler Gracie, that they teach me what to do in this kind of fights. And that's it. It's a result of my work, and I work hard for this. Thank you all.
When David gave you his back, did you know it was soon to be over?
No, I try to don't think about what's going on during the fight. I try to only do my job. And I wait for my cut, you know, because I can punch more, but he was definitely.
You did your job wonderfully tonight. Congratulations on the victory.
Thank you all. And I would like to say thanks again for my friend Royler Gracie and for my family. I love you. Thank you. And for all my students, they support me a lot. Without they, it will be impossible to be here.
You got that right. Brasilia, again, very impressive back-to-back victories. Wanderlei, Silva, and now Marcelo Mello, Jeff. A night for the Brazilians. They have been impressive.
Well, thank you, Mike. Certainly Marcelo Mello living up to a reputation coming in here as being good on the ground, good jiu-jitsu skills. He immediately sought the mount position, going from side to full mount, and then rain blows. And certainly that's a formula for success. And joining me right now, somebody that knows about success, someone that helps put together some of the great cards we have here at the UFC, Mr. John Peretti. And John, tell me, what do you think so far of the cards you put together?
Well, I'm a little disappointed in the alternate fight, and then it went so quickly. I feel that the competition's getting really stiff now, and if we're going to look at these fights in a certain way to make them proceed in a logical fashion, there's going to be a lot of guys who get eliminated quickly.
Well, certainly Wanderlei Silva here came back after a tough loss to Vitor Belfort down at Ultimate Brazil. How do you see him fitting into the middleweight picture? Certainly was what looked like a very impressive victory.
I think Wanderlei is an axe murderer. I think he's just the real top of the heap. I think in terms of the Brazilians, he's as good as they get. Wanderlei is going to go all the way. I really feel that he has the tools, mixing submission and a real Muay Thai background. That's an advantage that we haven't seen in a long time, except in Boss Rutten.
Certainly those knees that he was throwing were very, very effective. He used one tactic throughout that fight, and he made it work.
If you let a guy like that hold your head and throw knees to the body and alternately to the face, there's no way you're going to get out of that. It's very hard to get under it, to put an arm through, and to protect yourself. And maybe he should have went to the ground, but then you're at his disposal also on the ground.
Well, it's a night also, John, as you know, for heavyweights in a featured matchup, as you guys talked about a moment ago. And I asked Jeff this question before. Why is the world so enthralled with the heavyweight fighter?
I think the potentiality to end something quickly causes that kind of excitement.
And it has been exciting so far in the great champions we've had, Randy Couture, Maurice Smith, Mark the Hammer Coleman. One comment was made that Kevin Randleman is Mark Coleman with better conditioning. That's very scary.
Yeah, I don't know if that's accurate, but yeah, that would be a frightening thing. I think Randleman outdoes Coleman in speed, in endurance, obviously, and he has the potential to outdo him technically. I think Randleman is a younger version of maybe the best wrestler we'll ever see. I'm very impressed with him. His athleticism is extraordinary.
Well, there's two other heavyweights here that have found some good success, and they're going to be tested tonight. Pete Williams and Pedro Rizzo. Tell me how you see them fitting into the heavyweight picture.
Pedro has the tools to be a stand-up fighter of tremendous rank. Pete Williams has stand-up fighting in him, but he doesn't have that classic Muay Thai kind of stylistic changeover that Rizzo does. But his submission skills as a Lions Den fighter and a large Lions Den fighter makes him someone that we really have to reckon with. Where and when that interchange will come, I'm not sure. Let's see what happens tonight. Trey Telligman is no pushover, and he's in great shape, and he's bigger than ever, and I think he's really prepared for this fight. Can he handle the leg kicks of Pedro Rizzo? Can Pedro Rizzo throw something more than a leg kick, and can Pedro Rizzo finish?
John, do us a favor. Do what we do. Sit back and enjoy the rest of the night. Be a fan.
Did
another great job. John Peretti with a great matchmaking card.
Thanks.
John will join us later in the show. John Peretti, our matchmaker, again here tonight at Boutwell Auditorium in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. We continue our evening right here inside Boutwell Auditorium in Birmingham, Alabama with another heavyweight matchup. This one features two newcomers to the octagon. Ron Waterman, who has been involved in the sport of wrestling for 25 years out of Greeley, Colorado, and Chris Condo out of the fighting city of Memphis, Tennessee. Waterman, a sculpted athlete. Condo, a participant weighing in at over 300 pounds. A heavyweight matchup right now. Ron Waterman, he is nicknamed the H2O Man, 6'2", nearly 260 pounds.
Well, obviously this is the biggest no-holds-barred tournament I think there is in America. I've watched it on TV for years and always thought it would be good to be in there and thought I would do well if I did get the opportunity, and I'm real fortunate to get here and make the best of it.
It seems like a very pure sport. There's no one to back you up. I mean, once you're out there and you're it. That's what I like about it. It's pure combat.
Chris Condo making his debut inside the octagon, but he does understand one thing. It is pure combat. Entering first, he watched the show in Mississippi, he said still it has been overwhelming the last couple of days. Ron Waterman, a high school art teacher who specializes in pottery and sculpturing. If you have a problem with that, you tell Ron Waterman. 6'2", 259 pounds of muscle. He does coach the high school wrestling team in Greeley, Colorado for the past 8 seasons. All his students, all his wrestlers excited for his debut.
About this area right here.
Keys to winning would be his extensive wrestling background. Should be very good on his feet. Take down his grounded pound stylist. He's going to be somebody that once he gets you down on the ground, you're going to have to deal with a massive muscle. And if he's an art teacher, look at the way he's sculpted.
No question, a sculpted body for a sculptor. Chris Condo, submission fighting, 24 years old and much heavier than Ron Waterman. A young man who trains with Jeff Mullen, a good friend of the UFC, and he is looking forward to tonight's debut out of the fighting city of Memphis, coming in at 336 pounds. This is the first time that he has competed under UFC type rules, but he has a lot of experience in jiu-jitsu tournaments. This one could be spent on the ground. It will be interesting to see who has the edge if this fight becomes one that utilizes striking.
I would tend to feel by Condo's background, making the comment when he first saw the UFC, he got interested in ground fighting. Waterman being a wrestler his whole life, I give the takedown advantage to him. Probably the control and movement skills to him because of his athletic appearance versus Condo. Looks as though his size might get in his way.
Here's the tale of the tape for tonight's heavyweight preliminary matchup. A grappler and a wrestler. 2 inches, but a lot of weight, as Condo coming in at 336, and Waterman is sculpted 259 pounds. For the official introductions for tonight's preliminary matchup, let's go inside the octagon to the veteran voice, Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, our first fight is a preliminary heavyweight bout, beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is a wrestler with a shoot fighting record of 2-0. and a mixed martial arts record of 3-0. Standing 6 feet, 2 inches tall, weighing in at 259 pounds, fighting out of Greeley, Colorado, he is now making his octagon debut. Please welcome Ron Waterman. And his opponent, standing to my right, he is a submission fighter who tonight is also making his octagon debut. Standing 6 feet tall, weighing in at 336 pounds, fighting out of Memphis, Tennessee, please welcome Chris Condo.
From nearby Memphis, Tennessee, he has competed, like I said, in a lot of martial arts tournament, and now is interested in the UFC. Big John McCarthy will be our referee.
Are you ready? Let's get it on!
Here we go, preliminary heavyweight matchup between Chris Condo and Ron Waterman, and they tie up quickly.
Now, Waterman's pressing the issue of close quarter combat here. He doesn't want to be at punching range. He'd rather be inside that. His power is going to put Condo right down and see how he approaches his side mount already.
Waterman told me earlier today, Jeff, his striking has come a long way, and he's trying to deliver strikes to Condo with the left, and the punches are there, and that is it. Ron Waterman absolutely overwhelming Chris Condo, and he scores a quick knockout here in his UFC debut.
Waterman quick with the takedown, knew exactly what he wanted to do, get to the ground and pound situation. He was taking a side mount. He tried to put the knee on the stomach. Condo put him in a half guard, but it did not stop the rain of punches. Impressive victory for Ron Waterman. Look for him now to start stepping up in competition level, perhaps getting a knock sometime down the road for the heavyweight title picture.
He closed the gap early. Neither wanted to really strike on their feet.
And he used really just a simple underhook to kind of hip toss him to the side. Once he got him down here, he knew exactly what he wanted, control the arms, tried to bring the knee up, got caught in a half guard, but was able to right himself, and there with his left hand, Condo never found an answer to solve, and counter that attack. Another good look at it here. Quick to the takedown, quick to the side mount. And from here, it was the beginning of the end for Condo. Waterman, impressive physically, Showed good tactic here using ground and pound. Here at the finish now, that left getting in at will. Big John McCarthy all over this action. Condo will pick his head up and it gets caught against the fence, and that's the point right there that John steps in. Good job by the official. A great victory for Ron Waterman. Only the future will tell how far he can go.
Well, with the victorious Ron Waterman, Ron, you were able to make quick work of your UFC debut. How do you feel?
I feel good. Things went as expected.
Expected, did you think, to go that quickly?
I hope to. You know, you can't underestimate anybody. I went out there just like I would have gone out with anybody.
No question that you feel very confident in your own abilities, but I did notice that you quickly got into a grappling style. Now, you struck when you were down, you threw some punches, but you didn't want to go toe-to-toe, did you?
No, I'm most comfortable on the mat. I've wrestled for 25 years, so obviously that's where I want to be, and I feel real good down there. So.
You and I talked earlier today about perhaps your aspirations in the UFC. Share them with all our fans.
Well, I'll take every opportunity I can get, and the higher I can make it, the better that'll be, and maybe someday I'll be up there.
Interesting story, high school art teacher, but take a look here at some of the video that you saw a moment ago. Paint the picture for us, if you will, of what you thought happened in this matchup.
Chris came out swinging. I thought he would. I mean, I really don't expect that he thought he was going to take me down to the mat and work me, so I thought his only chance would be to come out striking hard, so I tied him up, got an underhook. He's a big boy. Got side mount, which I wanted to right away. I pinned him up against the fence, and I got a pretty clear shot at the side of his head there, and I had to capitalize on that.
Physically, Ron, you had told me today that you had seen people that weren't perhaps built like you are, sculpted in muscle, but yet you've wrestled guys like that are still very dangerous.
You bet. I wrestled in college for 5 years, so I've seen some big boys that'll really surprise you.
Any message to your guys, your students, your guys that you coach at home?
Not really. Keep watching, and hopefully you'll see me up there for the belt one of these days, too.
Congratulations, Ron.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Well, a very gracious winner, Ron Waterman, very mature young man at 33 years old, and he has coached wrestling for 8 years, and he showed us that he can make his way into an ultimate fight, because as you saw there, John Peretti, when he used his wrestling skills, got his guy down, then he started striking.
Yeah, I have to say that Chris was an alternate, and you know, came in and not in the condition that I wanted him to, and really disappointed in that. But Ron, you know, did exactly what he wanted to do. You know, what he's been trying to do. Little nice move with his knee on the inside to control the side control, which helped a lot. And Chris was overmatched.
A guy with a body and a mind like that, and the experience, and as he said, he's working on his striking. How far could he perhaps? I know we only saw him for 28 seconds, but you've seen tape. How far could Ron Waterman go?
I refereed him in a tournament where he fought 3 guys, and he looked just as impressive and just as much a gentleman. You know, when that fight gets stopped, you know, nothing extracurricular occurs. He backs off and is eloquent.
We could talk another day about Ron Waterman. Let's continue to talk, and Jeff, I know you don't mind this, about the heavyweight division.
Nothing wrong with heavyweights.
3 fights on the card tonight. We talked about him a moment ago. I mean, Pete Williams comes in now in the best shape of his life, and he is going to have a challenge this evening, though, undoubtedly.
Yeah, I mean, Travis Fulton is unheralded and is the best B fighter in the world today.
He has more experience than anybody else in mixed martial arts, over 60 fights.
He fights all the time. He fights for very little money and at a whim. And I mean, these are professional fights. We're not talking about, you know, street fights. It's a legitimate record. And he comes to fight, and he's prepared to fight, and he's got rocks in his hands.
Well, the most important thing, too, is the matchups in the heavyweights, that they all are safe contests, and we are also very excited that tonight is the culmination on the road to the heavyweight title. It's been a long road, but it will end this evening, and the belt once again will be worn by a worthy champion, either Boss Rutten or Kevin Randleman.
In order to review the road to the heavyweight championship, we must first go back to Ultimate Japan, where wrestler Randy Couture won the title from Maury Smith by decision. Due to contractual and scheduling conflicts, an entire year passed without a defense from the heavyweight champion. a decision was made, and Randy Couture was stripped of his championship belt. At last October's Ultimate Brazil, it was announced that the vacant heavyweight title would be up for grabs to the winners of a 4-man elimination series. Newcomer Bas Rutten would face undefeated Tsuyoshi Kosaka, and former champion Mark the Hammer Coleman would take on up-and-coming Brazilian Pedro Rizzo, with the winners facing off in May to crown a new champion. UFC 18 in January would be the showcase event for these fighters. So began the road.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on! Come on, guys!
Both bouts proved to be wars. Rizzo and Coleman traded punches, kicks, and takedowns for the entire regulation and overtime period before Rizzo was awarded the split decision victory. On the other side of the bracket, Kosaka seemed headed for certain victory until the Dutch kickboxer flipped the switch and began to score with heavy blows just 1 minute before the overtime period expired. Your winners, Rutten and Rizzo. But wait, due to his personal relationship as training partner and friend to Bas Rutten, Pedro Rizzo withdrew his name from the championship fight. The title was still vacant, and Bas Rutten needed an opponent. A third elimination bout was scheduled for UFC 19. Former champion Maurice Smith was chosen, as was Kevin Randleman, a powerful wrestler fighting out of Mark Coleman's Hammer House, who had made quite a name for himself fighting overseas. The young wrestler dominated the fight top to bottom, and with that victory, Kevin Randleman advanced to face Bas Rutten for the most coveted belt in mixed martial arts competition. And so it stands here tonight, the culmination of 5 months of anticipation. Bas Rutten versus Kevin Randleman. These two men are the cream of the UFC's heavyweight division, but only one can be champion. The road to the UFC Heavyweight Championship ends here tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, the anticipation continues to build, and we look forward to that matchup this evening. John and Jeff both. Randy Couture was a great champion. Maurice Smith, a great champion. But perhaps we have the most, if you will, renaissance fighters that we have ever seen in the UFC heavyweight division in Bas Rutten and Kevin Randleman. I'll start with you, Jeff. Would you agree?
Well, certainly they are the most prepared of all the athletes that have come to seek the heavyweight title. They've had time to digest everything that has gone on in the UFC, see the 4 skill sets, the takedown submissions, strikes, and guard position. And as long as you're able to understand those 4 key elements and train in them, you're a complete package.
What do you think, John?
I don't think enough has been said about Bas Rutten.
There you go.
I think, I've been looking at him a long time, and studied him in Pancreas, and I think he's a phenomenon. He can do it all. We haven't seen anything that he can do in terms of leg breaking, or, he's the most amazing kneer up with Wanderlei de Silva. He's a power puncher. We don't have power punchers. Maurice Smith was a slick, stylistic puncher with a great jab and a very seldom used right hand. This boy can rap.
Let's look forward to that.
How do you see him coming in, though, at just over 200 pounds, taking on the size and power of a Kevin Randleman?
I think it's better for him at this weight. He's going to be faster like Kevin is.
Be interesting to see, John. Another great matchup. The road to the heavyweight title on the card tonight. Randleman and Rutten right here at UFC 20. Still ahead tonight here at UFC 20, the heavyweight championship of the world. A matchup between Bas Rutten and Kevin Randleman. An impressive debut for Bas Rutten in January in New Orleans at UFC 18. He overwhelmed Tsuyoshi Kosaka. Tonight, it's Kevin Randleman.
I'm telling you right now, I'm quick, I'm fast, and I'm in shape.
Bas Rutten, Kevin Randleman will fight for the ultimate in ultimate fighting. The heavyweight belt is on the line tonight here at UFC 20 as Bas Rutten and Kevin Randleman's matchup is still ahead. Welcome all of you back inside. Live, the Octagon is open in the Boutwell Auditorium in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. Our next bout as we begin 3 straight heavyweight matchups is between Lions Den fighter Pete Williams, El Duro, the hard one, just 23 years old, down almost 10 pounds since his last matchup, in great shape against a very experienced 21-year-old in Travis Fulton. Pete Williams, has beaten some of the best in UFC history. He'll try to defeat another experienced fighter here tonight.
Pete Williams rocked the mixed martial arts world in his first appearance in the octagon at UFC 17. In the upset of the night, this Lion's Den fighter took out Mark the Hammer Coleman with one of the most devastating high kicks the UFC has ever seen. He returned at Ultimate Brazil to take on Tsuyoshi Kosaka, losing by split decision after the regulation and overtime period. At UFC 19, the young heavyweight returned with redemption on his mind, showing off his dominance and skill by taking out Jason Gonsi with a knee bar submission in under 2 minutes. He returns to the octagon tonight to keep the winning streak alive and continue to climb the ranks of the UFC's heavyweight division.
Being the heavyweight champion is the whole purpose why anyone steps in the octagon, is to win and to be the best. So that's my goal. That's the whole reason I step into the octagon.
This is kind of the spot that everybody wants to get to, and so it's a really it's a point in a fighter's career to see whether you're going up or down. So it's kind of the proving ground.
Now, one of Travis's friends showed him a tape of UFC 3, and since then, Travis looked for a way to get inside the gates of the octagon. He has found it now. Just fought in Brazil last week against Carlos Barreto, and I'll tell you what, this guy is as experienced as anyone in UFC history. I know this is his UFC debut, but he has fought over 70 mixed martial arts matches. Travis Fulton, the jiu-jitsu and wrestler, the Iron Man, they call him, out of Cedar Falls, Iowa. Did not fight Barreto a week ago, pardon me, was planning on that, but did not. But he has fought very recently on many occasions. 54-13-4, his record last check. It could have changed. He may have fought this morning. He is that experienced.
Certainly a wealth of talent. You can hear John McCarthy going over the fighter instructions before they get it on. And Fulton, you have to respect him. He's got to have savvy. He's got to have ring knowledge and the ability to have composure and control the pace of a fight. And that may be very important when taking on Pete Williams.
Here is Pete Williams, 23 years old. Last time he fought, he was 238 pounds. He is down to 230 pounds. He told me yesterday he is in the best condition of his life. And what does 8 to 10 pounds do? It improves, in Pete's mind, his quickness. On his opponent, Travis Fulton, he said, I'm not seeing much of him. One thing I do know is that he has got a lot of experience. I heard he's a tough guy. He'll come to fight. He's got a good right hand. I guess he can wrestle a little bit, but he is more of a fighter. Well documented the debut on videotape a moment ago. That big right kick of Pete Williams. He's tall and he can kick, and he is sculpted. Every time we see Pete Williams, he looks more and more like a true sculpted athlete and a fighter. He's got a long way to go.
Yeah, he's starting to live up to that El Duro label. He really has hardened up his body the last 2 times he's come into the octagon. He's young, and perhaps he realizes and senses to compete with some of these heavyweights, he's got to have some power.
Like to have a good night for the Lions Den. Start here with a victory for Pete Williams. Tail of the tape goes this way for our first heavyweight matchup. Officially on the card tonight, submission against jiu-jitsu. 23-year-old against 21-year-old. Conditioning should not be a problem. Both at 6 foot or taller, and just 4 pounds separates the two fighters. That will be featured here tonight. For the official introductions of one of our top 3 heavyweight matchups, here's the veteran voice of the Octagon, Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to enter the realm of the UFC heavyweight division. Beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is a wrestler and jiu-jitsu expert with a mixed martial arts record of 54-13-4. Standing 6 feet tall, weighing in at 226 pounds, he's fighting out of Cedar Falls, Iowa, and tonight is making his octagon debut. Please welcome Travis, the Iron Man Fulton. And his opponent, standing to my right, he is a submission fighter with a mixed martial art record of 4-1. He is a veteran of UFC 17, Ultimate Brazil, and UFC 19. Standing 6 feet, 3 inches tall, weighing in at 230 pounds, he fights out of the Lion's Den in Dallas, Texas. Please welcome Pete El Duro Williams.
Now Pete Williams and Travis Fulton ready to get it on inside the octagon. Our veteran referee is ready to get us going. Here's Big John McCarthy.
Here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on. Come on.
Travis said he'd like to strike with Pete Williams. Let's see what he does early.
Yeah, he wants to strike all right, and he wants to use that big right hand of his. As John Peretti said, he's got knockout power, and it's going to be in that right hand.
I'm amazed Pete hasn't kicked him to the liver, I was going to say.
Yeah, he took the kick, but he also ate a fist there.
Fulton looks to be set up very much like a very solid boxer. Jiu-jitsu and wrestling is his specialty, but you told us off camera a moment ago, John, he's got some heavy, heavy hands.
Pete Williams for the leg kick now.
Yeah, he'll be looking to kick Travis Fulton's lead leg. That'd be his left leg.
You don't need me, Jeff.
Sure I do.
There it is.
And there it is.
Petey is a very good kicker. We have seen that demonstrated before.
See that fake little front kick? That's so that Pete can throw his right hand. See if he'll bring down his hands for it.
Pete had talked about continuing to become a better striker.
Part of that is defense. He's had the knack of dropping his hands just like there. And some people feel that, you know, that may give Travis Fulton a chance to come over the top with one of those big bombs, but there it was again. He's countering well off the leg kick.
There's a high kick that just glances shy of the chin of Travis Fulton.
You see that coming, John?
Yeah, he has the ability to do that. See, now this I think is a mistake because his outside game is working well, and now Travis is being sucked into a game that he's not going to enjoy with the bigger man.
Well, it's Travis that initiated the rush there. It's kind of, you want to wonder, why not stick with your game plan of throwing a punch? I'm sure if it goes down to the ground, that's Pete's world.
Don't trip. Open up. There you go. There you go.
Over the top.
Game quick. Again, that's where defense is a big part of striking.
There's another chop to the lower leg.
And harder this time. More confidence.
And another.
Shades of Maurice Smith on that one.
He's reading something where he's beating the hand that Travis cannot counter quickly.
Pete avoids, he's pushed, and now the double leg shoot by Travis Fulton.
That was pure frustration, that shoot.
He's hanging onto the leg tight. There's not a lot he can do there. Look for Williams now to open up with maybe a knee. Side mount.
Really bad move.
This is not good here for Travis Fulton. This is Pete's world here. He likes being on the ground. In the side mount with a knee in the stomach here gives him good punching power and
full mount
balance.
now. There's a Lion's Den position not utilized often.
There's
the full
a half
mount.
guard again. Yeah, only for a second, but still in a dominant position here now.
Travis, push on the knee.
Pete Williams, high school wrestling teammate of Jerry Bolander, trying to do the Lions Den proud here tonight.
A little bit of ground and pound. There you see Pat Miletich yelling instructions.
Elbow escape, Travis.
That's got to be very
Out the
vocal
back,
here
out the
because
back.
the action taking place in
Out
front
the
of
back.
Mikey
There
Burnett
you go.
and Lions Den corner. There's a nice reversal of fortune, but can he continue to get out of trouble here?
Quit giving that up.
He'll try to ride that knee down and squirm over to back into the mount.
That's a very big guy on top of you, and you see the way he's using his knees and how calm he is. Travis Fulton does not get in this position very often. He was not in this position against Jeremy Horn twice. He was not in this position against other guys. This shows the sheer dominance of Pete Williams.
And Petey does have, and has demonstrated in the past to guys, the skills to be a very patient and technical fighter.
He's being very patient here. I'm quite surprised he's not throwing the right hand to the body.
Travis is doing a nice job here. Leg inside, leg on the hip, keeping distance.
Yeah, but he's not punching. He's got one free hand. And that face of Pete Williams is hanging right above there.
Pete really likes the leg locks. Now he goes with a punch. Now the elbow trying to work against the fencing. And Pete Williams still in a full guard now. He is in the guard of Travis Fulton.
That's going to bring Pete closer to him.
You see the encapsulation of Travis on that right arm of Williams, and now he's shifting a little already. He's trying to climb out. I don't know if Pete's baiting him at this time, but that's an arm bar. Wait, tap.
Knee bar.
Knee, ankle lock.
That's the heel hook.
Yeah, it's too late for him to turn, too. Travis is a very stubborn human being.
Trying to turn out of it.
And he's just about out.
Travis remained very patient. Good job by Travis Fulton. Excellent job. And the crowd reacts here.
Now you'll see punches.
He remained very patient there, you guys.
And in pain.
Yeah, with the heel hook in there, but I liked his guard where he got the leg in the middle and on the hip where he kind of pushed Williams away.
Travis is listening to Pat Miletich and very calm and not breathing hard at all.
Now a big punch to the face of Pete Williams. There's Fulton as predicted, working within the guard of Pete Williams and punching Pete to the right side of his face. And another one connects.
And the mat is the anvil. And the hammer is Travis Fulton.
He's trying to tee another one up. Fake with the left.
Well spoken,
just missed
John.
with the right.
That's exactly the situation. The head has nowhere to go.
Good fight so far. 5.5+ minutes into our 12-minute regulation period. We will have a 3-minute overtime if it is needed. And so far, these two have displayed great skill.
Pete Williams was talking to him.
Oh, he tried to use the back of the hand almost.
Williams here.
Really punches.
Change position. Don't just lay there and try to block with your arms. Move the hips, force your opponent off balance so that he can't throw an effective punch.
Travis has competed most of his career as a middleweight, but after competing in an open weight tournament, decided he can bulk up and work an arm.
He's got it. He's got it.
There's the tap. Pete Williams.
Very calm.
With a submission victory, let Fulton make a mistake, and Pete takes advantage. Williams is victorious.
They end that quickly. It can be a close contest, but the skills these fighters possess can end a fight quickly. Williams locking up an arm and putting Travis Fulton to rest.
A patient, technical fighter if needed, and he was getting pummeled on the ground. But Pete Williams, once again, for the second straight appearance inside the octagon, wins by a submission for the official results. Here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner at 6 minutes, 28 seconds. With a win by tap out, Pete El Duro Williams. Let's have a big hand for a very game opponent, Mr. Travis Fulton.
What a tremendous finish for Pete Williams. He continues his role as a heavyweight here in the UFC, John. John, give me your evaluation of Pete's performance and where you see him now in the heavyweight picture. Well, we're going to see a replay here first, quickly.
Well, Williams' kicks to the legs are getting stronger and stronger, and out of desperation, Travis gives up his best advantage, landing the right hand, and goes in with that desperation move to the ground.
And it was Williams who dominated early in the mount position, but then it was Fulton getting on top here, trapped in Williams' guard, but effective punching.
Yeah, and the great out the back on this, and there it was, the use of the fence. Always nice to use the environment.
Very good, and once he got Williams off balance here, I really liked what he did with his legs. He kept that knee in the middle. Williams was never able to clear past that knee and get him out, and that guard led to the reversal where Travis Fulton ended up on top, but eventually
he was so deep in that armbar from the beginning. I'm surprised Travis actually didn't see that coming. You know, it was kind of an obvious, you know, rudimentary move. This was slick.
The
I mean,
heel
escaping
hook
from the heel hook by turning in and then over. That was very nice and taking it away from him.
Great flurries here of individual attacks that are countered and and re-counterattack by the offensive fighter. And that's what we saw a lot here, but really it came down to guard position, I thought, and who was better effective in the guard. And here again, that heel hook by Pete Williams trying to catch Travis Wilson in a submission. What did he do wrong there?
Textbook reversal, that's all. You know, and you know what I like about the new Lions Den fighters is that they go from one move to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. They're slicker and slicker and slicker, and they're you know, relatively calm in a bad situation.
Well, he's a youngster, and certainly he's got a long way in terms of potential that he can still realize if he gets the right coaching, the right workout partners, and it was right there locking up that arm. See Travis trying to tap out quickly. And John McCarthy, Big John, in there to stop the fight. And Mike Goldberg is with our winner. Mike.
Well, congratulations, Pete Williams, here with his manager, Free Betancourt. Another victory for the Lions Den.
Yeah, it was great. You know, that kid came out to fight. 21 years old. He's already got like 70 fights, and so his ring experience is there. And you know, he showed it tonight because he made an impressive debut in the octagon.
You started very strong, Pete, and then he got some shots and he delivered some punches to your face.
Oh, definitely. That's his strong point. You know, he hits. He's a hard hitter. He's got ground experience. You know, he's got stand-up experience. So I went for that submission, that heel hook on the ground. Didn't work. I was surprised. So he reversed me after that, and he landed a few shots. I was able to deflect most of them, and got the armbar from there.
One thing that John Peretti just mentioned that he likes about the new Lions Den fighters is they go from one move to another, to another, to another. What is John trying to say about you guys?
I think he's just trying to say that we work a lot on our submissions. You know, you can't just go for one submission and expect nowadays to get it because everyone knows them, okay? Submissions now, everyone's studying them, everyone's learning them, so you go for an armbar, they're going to see it. So you got to go for an armbar, maybe then go to another submission, then to another, and maybe catch them on the third, you know, before they can catch up. You just got to be quicker.
Petey, everyone remembers the big kick that you landed in that big upset over Mark Coleman, but now in your last two victories, you have used a submission. Is it fair to say that that still is your bread and butter, the ability to put a submission on an opponent?
I still think so. It's what I started out with. It's what I've been doing for the longest time. I mean, my strikes have improved a lot, and I'm confident in them, but I always just feel really relaxed, really at home on the ground.
Last couple of shows have not went the way the Lions Den would have liked them to gone. Was there a little added incentive coming into tonight?
Always. I always go out there with the mindset to represent myself, not only myself but my school, and yeah, I'm not going to go out there and have a bad show and, you know, make my fellow teammates look bad, you know. I think it motivates you a little bit more knowing that it's more than just me on the line. I've got a bunch of guys behind me who put a lot into me.
Down the road, do you believe you can take a shot at the heavyweight belt and win it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it's tough, you know. All the guys at the top are right there. They're right along the same level with each other, so it's whoever day it is that day, but I'm up there. And so next time we'll see if it's my day.
Congratulations, Pete.
Thanks a lot. Hey, I just want to say hello to my family, my mom, dad, sisters, and my family in Texas, Jilma, the baby. I'll see you guys when I get home.
Petey's safe. Petey's a winner. Back to you, Jeff.
Thanks, Mike. And John, your impression of Pete Williams there, well spoken.
Oh yeah, he's a really, really nice guy, and what he said is true. The flow from one submission to the next, to the next, to the next. I mean, Travis escaped from some very, very perilous situations, and he continued to try to submit him.
I really like Pete. He doesn't talk about me. He talks about the guys behind him, the support he gets, how important that is. He continues to improve physically. He continues to improve with his technique. Certainly a force in the heavyweight picture. Right now we have Travis Fulton. Mike?
I'll tell you what, Jeff, it was a good fight put together by Travis Fulton, and Pete gave you a compliment. He could tell you were well-versed inside the octagon. In your mind, how did the fight go and where did it go wrong, Travis?
Well, I don't know. First of all, I want to say what's up to everybody at CF. What's up, Noah? What's up, Mel? And we're going to drink a lot of beer.
There you go. How did the fight go in your mind tonight?
I messed up. I don't know.
Did you mess up? Did you make a mistake?
Well, when you get to this level, it's more the fact you're here than the fact you win. I don't care if I win or lose. It's how you play the game. And Pete's tough. One of the top 5 best fighters in the world, and I came, I fought, I lost. I'll be back 100 more times. So
you took him down, Travis, and I knew you wanted to strike with him. Pete didn't give you much chance. You took him down. You avoided a heel hook. You did a great job getting out of that submission, and then you had the advantage for a second. Did you think you could put him away with your fists?
Yeah, of course. I was hurting him with shots, you could tell. But I got overextended. It was just being stupid, trying to land the big shot instead of worrying more about my arms. And I know better than that. But when you get at this point, you get really anxious, and it's exactly what happened to me. And I messed up, and I'll train even harder next time.
No question that you will come back and be a great competitor. The urge to throw the big punch, though, is that always going to be part of Travis Fulton's bio?
As long as it keeps knocking people out, it's going to be. But if it stops working for me when I get as old as all the other people here, a bunch of old men. But till that point, I'm going to still use it.
Let's keep in mind, Travis Fulton is just 21 years old. Not the debut that you wanted, but still a great fight. Thank you, Travis.
Thanks, guys.
Travis did a great job in avoiding one submission, couldn't avoid the second. He loses at 6:28, partner.
Thank you, Mike. You got to love his attitude. I mean, he has a lot. It's obvious he has a lot of fun with it. He's somebody that really loves what he's doing. John, you assess Travis Fulton.
I think he's doing it more than most also. Travis is still being molded. You know, he's young clay. He's 21 years old. And he comes off of a loss without any kind of repercussions in his mind except to go on and do it again.
Youth is blind at times in terms of his relentless enthusiasm and energy, and certainly Travis Fulton conveying that, but really Pete Williams looked impressive. Pete used his kinds of skills, his strength, to ward off any of the attacks that Fulton had, and when he needed to, he could count on his submission skills. So with his kicking ability, with his submission skills, how far do you think Pete Williams can go?
Well, I don't think anything's going to stop Pete from competing for the title. You know, styles make the fight. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. I think that there's somebody out there that could give him a good fight.
Now, certainly Williams lost to Kasaka, but he has continued to improve, and I really like the way he's worked on his body. He continues to slim and get harder and get more muscular through the shoulders. That's only going to help him with dealing with some of these younger big heavyweights like a Ron Waterman that we saw tonight.
Yeah, and you know, of course, it's a whole different level from Ron Waterman to Pete Williams.
Well, John, we want to thank you for joining us. Congratulations on yet another good card. We want to thank you and certainly, wish you luck with our next UFC, which is going to be coming out of Iowa. Any predictions for the championship fight?
No, I really don't know which way it's going to go. I just hope it's not a Couture Smith.
Well, John, we thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
We will next convene in Cedar Rapids, Iowa on July 16th. It'll be UFC 21. Pat Miletich defends his UFC lightweight title. And in a feature heavyweight matchup, that man, Marco Ruas, who was the king of the UFC after the brawl in Buffalo, UFC 7 back in September of 1995, defeating Paul Varlins. Marco Ruas then lost a controversial decision in a later UFC. 4 years later, he will re-enter the octagon to take on this man, a very diligent champion, one of the best kickboxers in the world, the ever so popular Maurice Smith, who pulled off the greatest upset in UFC history with his victory that you saw a moment ago against Mark Coleman. It will come your way in July. Pat Miletich defends his UFC lightweight title. Maurice Smith takes on Marco Ruas July 16th in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We've talked all night about the anticipation for the upcoming fight between Marco Ruas and Maurice Smith. Marco Ruas, we are excited about you returning to the octagon. Are you excited?
I'm very excited for to be back in the UFC. I have trained very hard because Maurice Smith is a great fighter. He's a great champion. But it is my time. And I'm back.
Marco Ruas, one of the great champions of UFC 7. If you were to defeat Maurice Smith, who would you like to perhaps fight next?
Fight anybody. But I want to fight the Hickson Grace, and time and place.
King of the Streets will be featured in July. Good luck in July.
Thank you very much.
Marco Huas back within the walls of the octagon. We look forward to that matchup upcoming this July.
Now, Marco has been as impressive inside the octagon as any of our fighters. He lost a controversial decision about 4 years ago, Jeff, the last time the gates were closed behind him.
To the Russian bear.
Yep, but we will see him again and look forward to it in July. Already a good night this evening. A couple of winners from the country of Brazil, the fighting country of Brazil, and Fists of Fury once again reigns supreme as Fabiano took on LaVerne Clark. Clark, he is one of the best strikers in our game right now, and he delivered some big shots.
Well, in the lightweight division, particularly with his hands and the thick wrists that he had, he can throw some bombs. And right there, took advantage of a slip by turned it into a left hand to the head. And fought gamely here, nearly catching the leg of Clark, but the cut that punch opened up caused Mario Yamasaki, the referee, to have the referee look at it. It was blinding at the time, and it was Dr. Istrico that felt that the fight should be stopped.
And a wise decision indeed. And once again, Fists of Fury, LaVerne Clark reigns victorious, and he is a winner along with Wanderlei Silva tonight, taking on newcomer Tony Petarra. The first time Petarra put his team inside the octagon, and Silva looking for a little redemption. He got it in a big way, Jeff.
Petarra came in and wanted to wrestle with Silva, but it was not going to happen. He would keep his feet and then start opening up with knees, and Petarra had no answer for this onslaught. Again and again, he would catch knees from Wanderlei Silva, and eventually Silva right here, bam, would deliver the knockout.
2:53, the time of the knockout in the first win ever in the U.S. for Wanderlei Silva. How about David Robinson, Marcelo, Mello?
Well, this turned out to be a good war here. Both of these athletes new to the octagon, not sure what to expect, but it would be Mello being the dominant factor here, particularly with his jiu-jitsu. He would get the takedown, and this is beautiful. I love that kind of a lift. You put yourself right into a side mount, can't really sink the guillotine choke, and from here, he knew what to do. He took the mount, and then he just started raining blows. Mello, very, very impressive in his debut.
Marcelo was anything but Mello in his UFC debut. He wins 123. Big John McCarthy stops the fight. So Roberts, a loser, Mello, a winner, but both game competitors. And then Pete Williams in the heavyweight division taking on Travis Fulton. And Travis admits he made a mistake, but Pete, and the scary thing when you mention Pete Williams, can just continue to get better and better.
Well, they're both youngsters, Fulton with a host of experience, but he almost seems to use fighting as his training base, whereas Pete's in the Lion's Den. He's got good people around him. He continues to improve his skills through the training and the people he has around him, and it's just showing more and more in the octagon. He continues to get harder physically. He continues to improve tactically, and the experience he has is just bolstering his confidence. Even though he missed this heel hook here, Fulton doing a good job of rolling with it and eventually reversing Williams. Williams has the full package, even on his back in the guard position. He can still be dangerous. His favorite submission, a knee bar, but it would be an arm bar right here that he would sink, lock out, and Fulton forced to tap.
Another impressive performance inside the octagon by a very patient Pete Williams. 6:28, the time of the submission. So back-to-back submission wins over Godzi and now Fulton for Pete Williams, who moves his record inside the octagon to 3-1. So far, so good. And two of the biggest matchups still continuing. Here are the official numbers in case you are scoring at home. The doctor stopped the contest between Clark and Silva, a winner at 253. Roberts at 123. Ron Waterman impressive in his debut as the referee stopped the contest less than 30 seconds in. And you just saw Pete Williams win by submission at 628. So the Lions Den is 1-0. The question is, can this man, Trey Telligman, bring the Lions Den record on this night to a perfect 2-0? He looks perhaps in the best shape and condition of his life. And then the big fight still ahead. Kevin Randleman and Boss Rutten. Much bigger than the one, though, that will happen in a matter of moments between Pedro the Rock Rizzo and Trey Trauma Telligman. 34-year-old against 24-year-old. Texan against Brazilian. And Telligman quick to point out that he thinks Pedro Rizzo one of the most talented fighters right now in the world. Pedro, a very, very confident young man, fighting out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai expert Pedro Rizzo made his octagon debut at Ultimate Brazil. With pinpoint accuracy and quick, powerful shots, this young heavyweight dominated Tank Abbott en route to a knockout victory. He returned at UFC 18 to take on Mark the Hammer Coleman. Using leg kicks, solid punches, and good defense on the ground, Rizzo outscored the former champ and took the split decision victory. He returns tonight to put his undefeated record on the line.
I know Trey is a tough guy. He's a tough fighter, you know. He's a very good fighter. He's from Lions Den. So everybody from Lions Den, they are good fighters. So they are all-around fighters. They are complete fighters. So I expected gonna be a very tough fight, hard fight. So, but I trained hard, and I think gonna be a good show.
Fighting out of the Lions Den, heavyweight Trey Telligman makes his third appearance in the octagon tonight. After a tough debut and loss to Vitor Belfort at UFC 12, Telligman bounced back to form at Ultimate Japan. He took on wrestler Brad Kohler in a highly scientific match, taking the win via armbar at the 10-minute mark. It's been almost a year and a half since the submission fighter stepped into the octagon. Tonight, the wait is over.
You know, my thing's always been, I know a lot of fighters duck a lot of fighters. I want to fight the best fighters. I've always wanted to fight the best fighters, test myself to find out how I stack up against them. And the only way you can do that is fight the top guys. So I only want, if you're not in the top 5, I don't want to fight you.
And Trey, in his estimation, considers Pedro Rizzo one of the top fighters in the world today. Trey Trauma Telligman, a very cerebral Trey Telligman when we spoke to him yesterday. Still can't wait for the respect that he thinks he deserves. Originally, he just wanted to be considered the best fighter in the world. He's more nervous than he was before in certain ways. He's less nervous in other ways. But the one thing we do know is that he has a respect for the methodical nature of what he believes this fight will take place tonight. He truly thinks, Jeff, this will be a chess match, and it could be one that ends by submission.
I really like the way Trey has come into this fight physically. He looks the best that he has ever been, and I think you're correct. I think that's going to be his strong suit. Rizzo showed that he has great striking skill against Tank Abbott, and he obviously beat Mark Coleman using striking skills. So this looks to be sort of a matchup between Rizzo, the striker, against Telligman, the submission man.
And he is indeed a submission man, an expert in that with his accomplished style of jiu-jitsu and submission skills. Here is Pedro the Rock Rizzo. You talk about taking down some heavyweight fighters in our world that have big-time reputations. Well, put on Pedro's list, Tank Abbott at 807 in Ultimate Brazil, and Mark the Hammer Coleman. Pedro the Rock Rizzo started training with Marco Ruas at age 14. Marco Ruas is his trainer, his mentor, his hero. And there is Marco wishing his top student good luck this evening.
As he said, the greatest thing he felt wasn't so much the victory, but the pride of Marco Ruas and what Marco Ruas said in terms of how proud he was of the performance that Rizzo made. Truly, Ruas is his idol, his hero.
This could be a very special 15 minutes that we look forward to. Pedro Rizzo, a very good striker.
Great striker, that's going to be his forte. He showed against Coleman he could survive in the guard. And of course, he's got Marco Ruas, king of the streets, as one of his teachers in the corner. He believes in him. That's a big confidence boost coming into the octagon.
Here's the tail of the tape. Experience certainly belongs to Trey Telligman. He has been in this fight game for a very long time. He's 10 years older than Pedro the Rock Rizzo, who was valetudo against the submission expert from the Lion's Den. We're unsure of Trey's weight. He's around 230 pounds, but he would not tell us for sure the condition in which he is in right now. We know one thing, it's excellent. Back inside the octagon, here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next heavyweight bout begins with the fighter standing to my left. He is a submission fighter with a mixed martial arts record of 9-1-1. He is no stranger to the octagon, as he is a veteran of UFC 12 and Ultimate Japan. Standing 6 feet, 2 inches tall, weighing in at 230 pounds, and fighting out of the Lion's Den in Dallas, Texas. Please welcome Trey Trauma Telligman. And his opponent, standing to my right, he is a Muay Thai and valetudo fighter with a UFC record of 2-0. He also has a professional kickboxing record of 31-1. He is a 4-time Brazilian Muay Thai champion and veteran of Ultimate Brazil and UFC 18. Standing 6 feet, 1 inch tall, weighing in at 233 pounds. He's fighting out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Please welcome Pedro Rizzo.
Now, for those of you who may be seeing Trey Telligman for the first time, you see the deformation on the right side of his chest. Trey was involved in a car accident at 1.5 years old that crushed his upper chest cavity, bent his sternum, and crushed his ribs. You should know at home, it does not affect his fighting skills at all. We are ready to get this heavyweight matchup started inside the Big John McCarthy.
Here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on!
Here we go. A Lion's Den fighter against another Brazilian. Will it be a perfect night for Brazil, or will it be a perfect night for the Lion's Den? We will soon find out.
Keep going, Trey. Keep going.
Speaking about that deformity quickly, Randy Lewis, a great wrestler, competed for the University of Iowa, was born without a pec muscle, but he developed the arm, the shoulder, and the deltoid to make up for that, went on to win NCAA titles and Olympic champion.
Look at Trey come out aggressively. He told us you're going to see the real Trey Telligman. A flurry of shots. Pedro Rizzo. A flurry continues. Punches are landing. Telligman exploding early. Rizzo back on his heels. Blow to blow. Fight for fight. Punch for punch. And now they slow down. Oh my goodness.
What a flurry. Both connected big.
To the UFC.
Both connected big. You got to give Rizzo credit. He weathered the big storm of Telligman. He got hit a few times, but he backed up and continued to throw punches. But Telligman does look as if he's more powerful and can rip through the arms of Rizzo with his punches.
A little blood coming down on the left side of Pedro Rizzo's face.
Now, Telligman feels this is going to be his big break in the UFC. This is the fight he must win. Says he's going to go all out, but what I just saw was him hang his arms as if he got arm weary, punched himself out a little bit. Rizzo bleeding from the nose and bleeding from one of his sideburns, just a small trickle of blood. He might have caught a little nick on the side of the head.
Well, it was told to us yesterday by Trey himself that he was going to leave it all inside the gates tonight.
Well, that
good early start.
That flurry nearly took Rizzo out. He hit him with a couple of big punches that seemed to stagger Rizzo. Never made his knees wobble, but backed him up continually, but Rizzo weathered it.
Now remember, Pedro Rizzo knocked Tank Gavick down in the first 30 seconds of their match, and then it took about 7.5 more minutes to end it. Pedro misses with a high kick. Trey steps back with good timing.
Left hand up, Trey. Come on.
We're seeing all kinds of strikes, nothing to do with grappling here at all.
I was just thinking the same thing.
This has all been on the feet, looking to try to outpunch the other. And there was the first leg kick by Rizzo. We know he's good at this.
All right, Trey, come on, baby, come on.
Well,
Well, it is a Muay Thai influence in Valet Tudo, Marco Ruas style. And so the ability to strike is very good for that man, Pedro Rizzo, and his idol, his mentor, watching. Double leg for Trey, can't close it, now he's down on his back.
Rizzo's got to make a choice here. If he stays over him, John McCarthy will not make him get up, but there he backed out.
The crowd reacts, they're back on their feet.
And they exchange touch of the gloves, signifying the respect of allowing the fight under the rules and the regulations to allow the opponent up.
I like the way that this is starting to go.
Very entertaining.
Mikey Burnett in the Lions Den in the corner, back-to-back fights. Trey wanting to prove some things here tonight. Not just to himself, but to the world. Seems as Larry's just missing for Rizzo, Jeff.
Seems Rizzo's basic fundamentals, his stance, his hand position, his movement, hasn't been affected. It looks as though Trey's is affected a little bit by fatigue. He takes time out to stand straight up, not with his knees bent, and he drops his hands like he is now as he approaches his opponent.
Caught Telligman on the chin with that right uppercut a moment ago, and now Telligman with a big right jab. Little blood now coming out of the nose of Trey Telligman. High kick, and waved off the right arm. Good defensive move by Pedro Rizzo.
Doesn't look like Trey here. You see, he's back on his heels here. He's straight up. He has no place to really go.
Oh, a flurry and a combination of punches.
He's going to get hit if he backs straight up like that. He's not giving himself foiled where it's easy to move and it's easy to outmaneuver your opponent.
Pedro still looks light on his feet.
You need to be in that breakdown position, not straight up and extended. Then you're locked out.
So Rizzo avoided an early flurry. Now he chops the leg. And a combination! And now they come down. And McCarthy steps in. Pedro, the Rock, Rizzo has won again. He knocks out Trey Telligman. And Rizzo is victorious.
Stay in rest. I know. Stay there, let him look at you. He's all right.
He continues, Mike, to get better. He continues to do the exact same formula that Pete Williams is doing. He's taking on top-flight competition, knocking it down, continuing to improve his body where he's getting more and more strong physically, harder. And, of course, his skill is continuing to improve and that confidence continuing to soar.
4 minutes and 30 seconds, the time of the knockout. Pedro the Rock Rizzo goes to 3-0 inside the octagon, and as always the show of respect and class between two great fighters, the Lions Den, Trey Telligman, and Marco Ruas, his top student.
Okay, now we drink beers together.
Pedro the Rock Rizzo.
The Lions Den took a hit there. But it seemed as though Trey Telligman in that fight, Marco Ruas here looking on, of course, Pedro Rizzo's coach. But it seemed as though Telligman put his faith in that huge flurry early. He went after him, he hit him a bunch, but he could not take Rizzo out. And it seemed as though he punched himself out a little bit. From that point on, the hands came down and he stood straighter up, no movement, and that's when Rizzo started to hit him. Here's the big flurry. He's chasing him down. He's throwing some big shots, some of them catching Pedro Rizzo flush, but Rizzo was able to survive by backing up and firing back so that Telligman really couldn't get inside and launch the big bombs early, or close in. And it was after that, and you could just see it, a good right hand that turned the chin, flash knockout. McCarthy saw that the eyes were rolling, and he just didn't want Telligman to get mounted and punched anymore. There, that right hand. Legs came right out from under him. Head all the way down to the canvas. And those leg kicks by Rizzo, again, seem to be the jab, the setup maneuver for that big right hand. Let's go to Bruce Buffer with the official announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a classic stand-up fight. We have a winner by knockout at 4 minutes and 30 seconds. For the winner, Pedro Rizzo.
Now he's continuing his march. He's on his own road to the heavyweight title. He's taken out Tank Abbott, Mark the Hammer Coleman, and now trauma, Telligman. Pedro Rizzo making big statements in the octagon, putting himself squarely now in the heavyweight picture. And of course, after the fight, you got to be celebrating. Rizzo and his corner taking full advantage. Good victory for this young Brazilian, continuing to improve. Well, he's making his exit there. And as he does, our favorite play-by-play man, Mike Goldberg, will get an interview. They're going to be cleaning down here. Pedro, here he is. Mike.
Well, I'll tell you what, a very happy and relieved Pedro Rizzo. Pedro, congratulations. An early flurry by Trey. He got you with a couple of shots.
Yeah, Trey, he expected me. I didn't know that he would come with punch. But I love this kind of fight. I like to fight on feet. And the fight was like I like, you know. So I think it was a good fight.
Look at it down here. I mean, Trey and you delivered, as Bruce Buffer just said, a classic confrontation for 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, it was a very good fight, but my condition was very good. My hands was fast. I didn't kick too much because I think he was waiting my kick, you know, to grab me. So, but it was good. I did a good job with the hands.
Were you so confident after you avoided that first flurry in your conditioning that you were able to just kind of play your game after that?
Yeah, I felt very well in all the fight, you know. I felt confident. When he started to fight stand with me, I love it because I like to fight on feet.
Were you surprised he never tried to take you down?
No, I trained hard how to sprawl with Roberto Leitão, with Marco Ruas, with the good wrestlers. I trained a lot how to sprawl, so that's why I knew that he couldn't take me down.
You're 3-0 in the UFC. Are you surprised in yourself, or is this what you expected from yourself?
No, Marco Ruas always believed in me, and he always given this confidence. I knew that I could come to the UFC and win some bouts. I don't know if I'm the best in my fight, but I always train hard, you know. I respect all my opponents. I think this is the secret to be a champ.
How excited are you on another subject that Marco is going to re-enter the octagon in our next fight?
Yeah, man, I know that Marco is very proud of me, you know. And Marco, he's gonna teach me something different in the octagon because he's my teacher. He always teach me something different, you know. For sure, I'm gonna watch this fight, and I'm gonna learn more things.
You are undefeated. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Pedro "The Rock" Rizzo, for good reason, Jeff Blatnick.
Well, I really like this young Brazilian, Pedro Rizzo, really confident now in his abilities, just continuing to grow physically and mentally and spiritually about mixed martial arts. A great leader in Marco Ruas. I like the fact that he's got a former champion, someone that he really idolizes and will listen to. I really think strong leadership is important in training. Pedro Rizzo continuing his own march to the road to the heavyweight title.
We will next convene in Cedar Rapids, Iowa on July 16th. It'll be UFC 21. Pat Miletich defends his UFC lightweight title. And in a feature heavyweight matchup, that man, Marco Ruas, who was the king of the UFC after the brawl in Buffalo, UFC 7 back in September of 1995, defeating Paul Varlins. Marco Ruas then lost a controversial decision in a later UFC. 4 years later, he will re-enter the octagon to take on this man, a very diligent champion, one of the best kickboxers in the world, the ever so popular Maurice Smith, who pulled off the greatest upset in UFC history with his victory that you saw a moment ago against Mark Coleman. It will come your way in July. Pat Miletich defends his UFC lightweight title. Maurice Smith takes on Marco Ruas July 16th in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Well, we look forward to seeing the master striker, Maurice Smith, in the octagon against Marco Ruas, two of the most famed and decorated champions of past. But in a matter of minutes, we will have champions of the future, champions of the present, One will reign victorious tonight in the heavyweight championship of the world. Boss Rutten against Kevin Randleman. A striker against a wrestler, but both, as we have said all night long, Renaissance fighters. Boss, a quiet killer. Boss, ever so dangerous, as he demonstrated in the overtime session in his UFC debut against Tsuyoshi Kosaka. We look forward to the heavyweight championship of the UFC coming up now.
Toughness, ability, experience. Many in the world today believe that Boss Rutten is the world's greatest martial artist. Former Dutch kickboxing champion and king of pancrase, he has competed at the highest levels of both stand-up and ground fighting and excelled at both. His long-awaited UFC debut came at UFC 18, where he took on rising heavyweight Tsuyoshi Kosaka. Kosaka dictated the fight throughout regulation, and many wondered if Rutten's debut would end in disappointment. However, Rutten seemed to turn it on in overtime, scoring the TKO 1 minute before time expired to secure his place in tonight's championship bout. Ever the performer, Boss Rutten brings a unique combination of comedy and command to the octagon. Tonight, he'll take his run at the UFC Heavyweight Championship of the world.
Explosive power, and he's going to take me down, and he's going to hit me. That's his game plan. He probably learned some submissions also, but I think more the defenses. And that's his game plan. My game plan is going to be, I'm going to try to stand up with him and see if I can protect myself from a takedown, see if I can make a nice counter on his takedown. Maybe I'm going to knee him in the head, something like that, and see what I can do.
As far as standout credentials are concerned, few bring as much to the table as wrestler Kevin Randleman. Agile, fast, and powerful, this 28-year-old was a 3-time Big Ten champion and 2-time U.S. national champion during his NCAA career at Ohio State. With former coach and present trainer Mark the Hammer Coleman in his corner, Randleman entered UFC 19 to take on former champ Maurice Smith to see who would advance to fight for the UFC Heavyweight Championship here tonight. The quicker and more powerful wrestler kept Smith off balance throughout the fight and dominated from the stand-up and grounded position. Tonight, in only his second appearance in the octagon, Kevin Randleman will attempt to become the UFC Heavyweight Champion of the world. And there's only one thing in his way.
I'm going in there, and I'm going to try my damnedest to knock the shit out of him. I'm not going in here. He's not Maurice Smith. Maurice Smith was 220, and being a world champion kickboxer, hey, you got to be scared of them kicks. I'm nervous of Boss Rutten's kicks because he's quick, but at the same time, again, being relaxed, being focused. If I get knocked out, so what? You know, so what? I'll be back to fight again.
We won't have to wait for him to come back because he will soon enter the octagon. Kevin Randleman, 27 years old, against Boss Rutten, 34 years old. Champions of the past in the heavyweight division. Dan Severn, Oleg Tektarov, Ken Shamrock, Don Fry, Mark Coleman, Maurice Smith, Randy Couture. Who will it be after tonight's combatants battle? Will it be that young man who has so much promise? Fighting for Mark Coleman, his hero. Kevin Randleman from Sandusky, Ohio, now fighting out of Columbus, Ohio. A 2-time national champion at 177 pounds at Ohio State University. Won one of his national titles, Jeff, fighting 5 matches with a broken jaw.
Yeah, I was there to watch all of it. There's one interesting stat about Kevin Randleman. Every major event that he has ever won, I have been there to watch it. So this bodes well for him tonight. But certainly a great athlete out of Ohio State. Tremendous wrestling ability. And against Maurice Smith, he showed he's not afraid to strike, even against someone with a striking background.
He says, you know, it's just simple. Look at that athletic ability. He just loves to punch people.
But tell them they got to get out. They got 3, and that's it.
His opponent tonight, and the goatee has been put on the UFC logo by Boss Rutten.
Will Kevin Randleman erase that goatee tonight? Originally from Eindhoven, Holland, fighting out of Los Angeles, California, he has got photographic reflexes. He is extremely athletic. His formal martial arts training has taken place over the last 15 years. Former king of pancrase and perhaps a future TV star, Boss Rutten.
Well, he certainly has the TV appeal. You walk around this hotel and Boss Rutten was holding court in every restaurant, every lobby, every little meeting place. He is a charismatic individual with tremendous martial arts experience and talent. Excellent striker, great at submissions, kickboxer, pancrase in Japan as a grappler. He's done it all, and he's been recognized internationally. And tonight, he's looking to be recognized as the UFC heavyweight champion of the world.
Tail of the tape for this, the heavyweight championship matchup, our main event. Boss Rutten, a submission specialist, 34 years old, taking on the 27-year-old wrestler who is a bit shorter, but much heavier, 15 pounds of pure muscle. Boss nearly a middleweight, but the one thing that will be a concern of Randleman because of that, the quickness that will be demonstrated by Boss Rutten. This is the moment we've all been waiting for, the heavyweight championship matchup. For the introductions, here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the battle for the gold and the long road to the UFC Heavyweight Championship of the world ends right here tonight. These two highly skilled and powerful warriors are ready to go at it. Let's begin with the fighter standing to my left. He is a wrestler with a mixed martial arts record of 7-2. He is a 3-time Big Ten champion and a 2-time National Wrestling Champion. He stands 5 feet, 10 inches tall, weighing in at 218 pounds. Fighting out of the Hammer House in Columbus, Ohio, please welcome back Kevin Randleman. And his opponent, standing to my right, he is a submission fighter and former king of pancrase and a European Muay Thai champion. Standing 6 feet, 1 inch tall, weighing in at 203 pounds. He is originally from Eindhoven, Holland, and fighting out of Los Angeles, California. Welcome back, the Dutchman, Boss Rutten.
It is the most prestigious belt in the world of mixed martial arts, as this, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, is the Super Bowl of mixed martial arts. That is the most coveted prize. One man tonight will take it home. Let's get it started. We've waited all evening. Here's Big John McCarthy.
Here we go. For UFC Heavyweight Championship, are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on!
Aggressive is the approach that Randleman wants to take.
One thing I'm going to observe about Boss Rutten weighing nearly at a middleweight, 203 pounds. He came in heavier for his last fight. I really felt he thought conditioning was important. He was impressed by Randleman's ability to go the whole route against Smith, but I also feel he feels conditioning is something he wants on his side. And I think him coming in this trim, this lean, is indicative that he wanted to be as efficient as possible.
Randleman takes him down hard. Boss has him in his guard.
Well, he walked up to him trying to go ahead and land big punches. Randleman flurrying here almost uncontrollably.
Trying to overwhelm him with that 15 pounds of strength. Boss Rutten not really taking a big shot there.
He did well, keeping his arms up, keeping them crossed in front of his head so the punches couldn't come straight down, and it was difficult for him to come from the side.
Kevin will admit his weakest point, and he is a good fighter all around, but his weakest point is the ability to submit.
That would be true. He's probably not got a lot, he probably doesn't possess a lot of submission tactics. Against maybe an inexperienced MMA individual, he can catch but not with the likes of a Boss Rutten. He would have to catch Boss Rutten somehow and stun him in order to sink a good submission lock.
If he does go for a submission, Kevin told me, Jeff, and I know you know this being a wrestler, he wouldn't want to give up position and go for a leg. He would try to do it with a choke or something on the upper body.
I'm sure he would probably do that. He doesn't want the fist to be free to go ahead and hit at him.
Boss Rutten, very respectful of this young man, Kevin Randleman, who has a tremendous bit of God-given ability, but so does Boss Rutten. Mark Coleman in the corner, once again, of Kevin Randleman.
And again, it looks as though Rutten's doing a nice job of deflecting the punches, but that elbow coming straight down is catching him just a little bit, but it's not really a vicious or powerful blow.
Coleman yelled from the corner, elbow to the midsection, and Randleman has gotten two. Now on the face again, the bridge of the nose is cut. The bridge of Boss Rutten's nose is cut.
He could actually go ahead and knee right here to the head of Boss Rutten. Rutten brings that elbow up to stop the punch. That leaves the side of the head open for the knee.
Now remember, in the matchup between Boss Rutten and Tsuyoshi Kosaka, much of it took place on the mat. Rutten avoided many flurries, was patient, and then won in overtime.
When Rutten got to the half guard, that's probably what he's going to try to do, wear the bigger fighter out. It's a smart tactic. However, how much do you have to pay a price to get that reward?
The crowd reacts to Kevin Randleman's aggressiveness.
Rutten looking for an armbar quickly.
Now Rutten striking from his back. They glance off the top of the head of Kevin Randleman, though. Oh, a big left!
Watch Rutten punch from the bottom. That left was more kind of like a karate chop coming down than it was really a good, powerful punch. It's tough to punch from the guard, especially when the man's extending it. Looking to get the knee up in there now. There's another punch by Rutten there. Right now it's all been Randleman, though. He's controlled the action with the takedown. He's been the dominant force.
Cut on the bridge of the nose. Does not appear to be very large, or John McCarthy would have stopped it to get it checked at this time. But the question I have for you, Jeff, when a cut opens in that spot, does it affect the fighter's sight?
It certainly can. From the bridge of the nose, especially if Randleman's arm comes down and smears it, can push it into the eye socket and affect that vision. Rutten doing what he can to maintain position here and try to get back into a guard situation here. Nice knee by Randleman.
Kevin showing very good versatility. 29-inch thighs on the physique of Kevin Randleman.
Vertical jump, incredible.
Rutten was trying to get something going on, a potential choke, and Randleman just on pure strength able to avoid it. Rutten left himself exposed again. Now he turns, shows his back.
He's daring Randleman to come up. It looks as though he's baiting him to come up to his neck. Randleman staying down below and low. This is almost a classic wrestling match here, leg in with Randleman. And Randleman there, not biting, just keeping good position, not extending himself or putting himself into the...
They are going to check the cut. That is what they are doing right now. They are going to check the cut on Boss Rutten's face. As always, the ultimate concern in the UFC is the safety and health of our fighters. They are ultimate warriors. And this,
he broke his nose on that.
The ultimate finishing school, the House of Guts and Glory.
You're right, you can breathe all right?
You want to continue?
Go, your nose is broken.
You tell me if you want to continue.
My nose stuff. Yeah. And
Are you done?
Yes, right, that's right. You want to go or not? Good. Did you want to go?
It is the fighter's choice, and what cuts he shows. A broken nose, but no bother to Boss Rutten. Great job done by Dr. Richard Istrico and Big John McCarthy to pose the question more than once so Boss would understand exactly what he was given a chance to do, and that was calling into it.
Well, he's got the heart of a champion.
Are you ready? Get back to that corner, all the way back. Let's go. Go back to your corner. You ready to go?
I like John McCarthy. He keeps control in the octagon. And yes, Rutten showing the heart that has led him to become a champion in many different disciplines in martial arts. Electing to continue despite what appears to be a broken nose. But he did get a break. He got stood up, and that puts him back into what he feels is...
Delivered a Good left kick, but Randleman right down again. Now Rutten. Some rabbit punches to the right midsection of Kevin Randleman.
Randleman's lats are so big. I wonder how much damage that could possibly do.
Now Boss is well versed in patience. He's trained with Pedro, Rizzo, Marco Huas, Mark Kerr. And then you've got another great heavyweight, Mark Coleman on the other side. And we have well documented the influence he has had on young Kevin Randleman. Kevin's debut impressive against Maurice Smith on his son Calvin's birthday. Calvin 11 now.
Oh, and Boss sneaking in a few punches. Boss is tough here. If you bring your head up, he'll take swings at you.
Now the one rap, if you will, on Mark Coleman in the past has been his loss of conditioning 7 or 8 minutes in, Jeff. And Boss Rutten said it. This is not my quote. This is what Boss said. Kevin Randleman is Boss Rutten with better conditioning. But Kevin Randleman has also worked very hard these 6.5 minutes.
Well, Kevin Randleman does appear to be a Mark Coleman with great conditioning. And he has flurried pretty hard up to this point, but he's maintaining pretty good control. This kind of a situation here where he gets to put a knee down and extend the leg, he's not using a lot of muscular effort to keep himself up, and that's what I think Boss has to force him to do, is get up on the toes so he's holding everything with muscle, burning a lot more energy. Rutten here seems to have stopped the flurrying of Randleman. Randleman's not punching the way he was in those first 6 minutes.
Has Rutten done something to stop it, Jeff?
I think it's a combination of both. Those punches that he's delivering now affect Randleman. And the second is Randleman flurried. And in that flurry, did he punch himself out? Now he's coming back again, and those are uncontrolled punches. They're flailing. So Randleman really needs to kind of concentrate, focus on, precision punching.
Trap his arm, Kev.
We here, Kevin, let's go.
You can hear Mark Coleman and his passion for Kevin Randleman, telling him to trap the arm.
Well, we've seen Boss hooking on the wrist a little bit. You got to wonder, he tried an arm bar earlier. Will he go back to it again? He nearly had it. But then Randleman's so strong and powerful in a great position. There again, looking for it. Randleman, though, able to maneuver out. Good counter, now has a side mount.
Work it through.
If Kevin starts to think more than be instinctive, could that work as a disadvantage because of the ability for Boss to work submissions?
Only if he stops moving. Only if he stops moving. The worst thing he can do, and I think back like Kevin Jackson against Jerry Bolander. He went and put his head down on the chest, tried to take a little bit of a blow, stopped moving, and as soon as he did that is when Bolander rolled up on the back of his shoulders, started hunting for that arm bar. Likewise, Randleman doesn't want to lay there. Rutten will take advantage of that.
So Boss Rutten and Kevin Randleman, the pace is slowed. The chess game has begun.
Rutten has one thing in his back pocket that he knows. Both overtimes will start on their feet.
He avoided a huge flurry and suffered a broken nose. A punch delivered to the face of Boss Rutten by Kevin Randleman. Rutten from Holland, Randleman from the Buckeye State, Ohio.
Well, we're rolling down here to about 2.5 minutes left in the regulation period, and at that point, they could be stretched up. Stood up.
Little more than 2.5 minutes.
You're right, it's 15 minutes. It's not 12, it's 15.
And remember, in the matchup before, though, as you mentioned, the stand-up in the overtime period is when Rutten, who took some shots from Tsuyoshi Kasaka, turned his game on. So now is the momentum, if you will, starting to turn towards Boss Rutten.
And Rutten staying very active here, continues to punch from the bottom. It seems that Randleman here will throw 2-3 punches in a huge quick flurry. And if he doesn't score, stops punching.
Well, Boss has said he doesn't think that he can submit me. And now they wipe off Boss Rutten again. And clean up the cut as the activity started to deaden, and so John McCarthy stands the two fighters back up. Who gets the advantage here, Jeff?
Oh, certainly Boss Rutten. He was unable to get out from the bottom. It looked as though Randleman was able to control him there. But it does appear, though, that Randleman's offense started to wane a little bit there. He started throwing punches less frequently. Boss started to pick up his punching from the bottom. I'm not saying Randleman is fatigued, but certainly his tactic as he started in terms of amount of punches thrown has slowed down.
Coleman and Rutten ready to go. Once again, the regulation period continues. Let's see what Boss does here, Jeff.
Well, he'll continue to try to strike. I wonder if he'll try a leg kick, though, only because Randleman caught it last time and took him down. He may want to try to work with his fists.
As much as Kevin Randleman wants the big knockout, he's got to be careful not to get overly aggressive and make a mistake that Boss Rutten can take advantage of.
That's correct. Watch for the knees now of Rutten. Watch for knees here.
So far, through 11 minutes, you could not ask for anything more in a heavyweight championship bout.
And up to now, it's basically been Randleman. He has controlled the action, most of it being on the ground, with him being able to strike.
We have not had a judge's decision rendered in tonight's UFC 20 so far. The three criteria for those of you at home: aggressiveness, striking, and grappling. Randleman clearly ahead, as was Tsuyoshi Kasaka in Boss's UFC debut. Boss Rutten has not lost a match in 3 years. And as you said, every time you've been around Kevin Randleman in a big matchup, he has also reigned victorious.
That is correct. That is definitely correct, and he seems to be doing very well here. Perhaps to keep up the punch count, he should continue to throw some punches. Because here, John McCarthy, if neither one are trying to improve position, the rule reads to stand them up, and Randleman is not doing anything. He's staying in the guard, using his hands to keep space. There's his first strike in a bit. Rizzo able to survive. Pretty much now has neutralized the offense of Randleman down within his guard.
Patience will have to be continued to be displayed by Kevin Randleman. I'm not worried that much about Boss Rutten's patience because he's been in matches that have lasted hours in his career. 2 minutes and 15 seconds now remaining in our 15-minute regulation period. But it's Randleman who probably thought he had Rutten covered for that and sees it continuing with Rutten now using the elbow on the back of the head of Kevin Randleman.
The side of the head. He's coming in from the side.
Which is legal.
That's correct. You can see a couple cuts in the hair of Randleman, and those are from the punching and elbows of Boss Rutten. But you know what else is happening here? Look at the arms of Randleman. They're extended and they're out straight. And that is definitely a setup for an arm bar. If Boss Rutten can somehow set it up, sneak him into it, fake him out, make him think of what he's not trying to do, he may catch Randleman here.
It's amazing to think that an arm that big could be barred, but with leverage it can. And here comes Rutten, continuing to punch the side of Kevin Randleman's head. Rutten again trying to set one up, and Randleman baiting him.
You can see Randleman now just kind of lifting his head just slightly to get a look to see where Rutten's head is so he can throw a punch. He knows if he brings his head up, he's going to get hit. Rutten probably the best we've seen in the UFC at striking from the back.
Final minute of regulation.
Open heels, open the hand strikes using the heel of the hand.
Rutten's picking up some much-needed points here in these last couple of minutes, partner.
And it's because Randleman really has gone silent on his offense. And it seems that the crowd is behind Boss Rutten.
Now, you have to have great respect for a fighter to go through the early
flurry of punches that Boss Rutten did and continue to battle. 2 warriors. And 20 seconds remaining before we go to our first of 2 3-minute overtime sessions. 10 seconds. It has been worth waiting all night for, waiting months for. The road to the heavyweight title will go to overtime. My, oh my.
I really do think conditioning here is going to be the ultimate statement in this ultimate battle for the heavyweight championship. Rutten came in awful light, and I think he really felt that that was a big factor.
Just a little bit, relax. I'm gonna try to squeeze his head, all right? All the water here, Mark. Come here, Kev.
Come up here. Come up here. Come on, breathe. Recover. Recover. Come on. Come on. Come on. You went for 45 minutes. You went for 45 minutes before. Yeah. Come on. Come on, Kev. Come on. Got to stay up in that pocket. Come on. It's all you, baby. You gotta get on his eye. You gotta get on his eye. You gotta bust him open. They're about ready to stop it. You gotta cut him a couple more times. Kevin, you gotta try to hit him with an elbow. You gotta try to bust him with an elbow. Come on. Suck it up here, man. You're a warrior. Come on, you went for 45 minutes, man. Let's go. You went for 45 minutes before. Let's go.
Come here, look at me. This way.
And into Boss Rutten's corner. That's his nose attempted to. Here we go. The fans are on their feet here at Boutwell Auditorium. A high kick misses Kevin Randleman.
Boy, he set that up too. Planted and came up with it. Randleman ready though. Well, it lets you know what Boss Rutten's thinking.
Remember the way he turned it on in overtime before. As spectacular a flurries we've ever seen in the UFC.
They say Babe Ruth can call his pitch and pointed to the outfield. But Boss Rutten supposedly during the Kosaka fight said, let me know when there's a minute left. And when they yelled out a minute, finished the fight with those strikes.
How can he neutralize, though, working exclusively from his back here? Because Kevin is using his strength, his wrestling skills to take it back down to the mat.
He certainly is, and because of his wrestling background and that power and size he has, he's so difficult to stop from ripping your legs out. Boss had him up against the fence, felt, he almost got to him one time, dropping down, getting his arm back under, but Randleman's power, once he gets one of your legs up in the air, is to lift and drop. And he's very effective at it. Most wrestlers are at this elite level.
Well, we asked Kevin Randleman what was the key to beating Boss Rutten yesterday. He replied, what's the key to beating Kevin? He doesn't think he can be beaten.
Another great attempt at an armbar there, and that one Randleman really had a struggle to get out of. And the power in those arms of Randleman, thick and short, make it very difficult to hang on to. Not to mention almost 17 minutes worth of sweat.
Under 90 seconds left, and again, the broken nose worked on by Kevin Randleman.
You wonder if Rutten should just continue to look for armbar and start some kind of rolling flurry where he may be able to find something there. Randleman, certainly his tactic right now is to control all the action, keep it in front of him, keep his opponent down, keep him away from the strength, which is his stand-up strikes.
Final minute of overtime number 1. Another 3-minute overtime will come after a 60-second rest period here. This is for the big belt, the most prestigious belt in all of mixed martial arts in all of the world, the UFC Heavyweight Championship. Years of blood, sweat, and sacrifice culminate in tonight's action. The ultimate proving ground for the ultimate in combat. 20 seconds remains in overtime number 1.
And Randleman dictating the pace and the place where this fight takes on its shape. It's really interesting here to see Randleman up that high, up on his toes, but unable to really launch any offense there.
Well, when Maurice Smith was defeated by Randy Couture, Couture dictated the pace
and the place of that championship
This
match.
is very much like that thus far.
When Maurice beat Tank the fight before, he was able to strike. When Maurice upset Mark Coleman, here was the secret. Maurice withstood the kind of punishment that Boss has withstood so far, and then took over on the hammer.
3 short minutes, man. That's nothing, baby. It's nothing. It's
Which
nothing.
way will it go tonight?
Smear it in his eye. Smear that blood in his eye so he can't see. Don't let him elbow you anymore. It's close. It's close right now. You can't let him elbow you. You can't let him score no more. You got to win this one.
Jeff, do you agree? Is it much closer after that overtime in scoring?
I'd still say Randleman has dominated this fight simply because he's done it in the realm he's wanted to, and he's controlled it once he's got it there. I think Rutten has closed the margin a bit because he's been able to come back with some strikes down there, but it's Randleman's game. Rutten is playing Randleman's game.
Let's see how long Boss can stay up on his feet where he's an effective master striker. Can he get a knockout punch in on Kevin Randleman? Does he need a knockout punch here?
He needs to dominate this 3 minutes if he has any chance of winning the fight.
Oh my, he delivered with the right foot. A big kick to the head of Randleman. Watch out. Could we see Boss explode? He's going to go for it, Jeff. He knows he's behind. He's going to leave it inside the gates. He missed there, and he's tied up by Randleman.
Randleman will drive him in and then try to rip the legs out.
That hurts Boss.
And this is probably where this fight's going to wind up ending. Unless Rutten here can come up with some kind of tactic to get Randleman off of him and allow him to get some kind of power shot. He won't be able to do it with punches from his back, that is for sure.
Definitely landed that kick to the side of Kevin Randleman. But Kevin waited for his opportunity. And talk about the strength and power. How about the quickness of Kevin? How quickly he could shoot and take his opponent to the mat.
Well, that's the ability of the wrestler. That's something that they should always be able to do. And that's something that, fortunately, Mark Coleman in this fight, both against Maurice Smith and Pedro Rizzo, was unable to do late in the fight. That's a lesson probably Randleman learned from Coleman.
Shamrock, Severn, Petarra, Buas, Fry, Coleman, Smith, Couture. Who will be tonight to reign victorious in the most prestigious division in Ultimate Fighting, the heavyweight division. Just over a minute remaining in the match. They have fought now for 20
Might see an armbar attempt here again. Randleman gets his up on his legs and straightens one of those arms out.
If Kevin can stay busy and avoid the stand-up here in the last minute, he should close the book on this match against Rutten. 40 seconds. And they're right in Mark Coleman's face, which, believe me, is a motivating factor to Kevin Randleman. He absolutely idolizes Mark Coleman.
Certainly there won't be any loss for ideas on what to do with Mark Coleman there.
20 seconds. You got to go right now. 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Get busy, Kev. Finish strong. Finish strong, Kev.
And that certainly would be something Randleman would like to do, is finish strong. Put an exclamation mark on perhaps this, his greatest performance in the octagon.
2 seconds. 2 seconds.
It's over. 21 minutes. The heavyweight championship goes the distance. And the judges will now be in a position to render a decision. Skip Hall, Tim Catalfo, and Dan Miragliotta. What a wonderfully contested heavyweight championship bout between Kevin Randleman and the Rock from Holland, Boz Rutten.
Beautiful fight. Beautiful fight. That's a war right there. Nice job, baby.
Mark Coleman could be sitting next to me because everything he says is absolutely right. That was a war. Leon Tabbs, veteran cut man, a legend in the boxing world, attending to our fighters. Again, safety of the utmost concern always of our great competitors here at the Ultimate Fighting Championship. We waited months for the road to the heavyweight title to culminate. It has culminated here in Birmingham, Alabama. And the judges have rendered a decision. Remember one more time the criteria: aggressiveness, striking, and grappling. John McCarthy brings the fighters to the middle for the official decision on who the new heavyweight champion of the world will be. Here is Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a big hand for both these heavyweight warriors. We now go to the judges' cards for the decision. Beginning with Dr. Tim Catalfo, he scores it Randleman. Judge Hall scores it Rutten. And Judge Don Miragliata scores it for the new UFC heavyweight champion of the world, Boss
The decision goes against Mark Coleman in the Hammer House and Kevin Randleman. The new UFC heavyweight champion of the world, Boss Rutten. Kevin Randleman did not want it to go to a judge's decision. It did, and it goes against the young warrior, Kevin Randleman. Rutten wins the heavyweight championship. A broken nose, an opportunity for Boss Rutten to tap out with respect early in the fight. He chose not to do that, and he is awarded with the UFC heavyweight belt. Boss Rutten, the heavyweight champion, with another heavyweight champion inside the octagon, my partner, Jeff Platnick. Jeff?
Thanks, Mike. I'm here with both our new heavyweight champion of the world and Mr. Bob Marowitz, CEO, president of SEG Sports. It's now time for the belt presentation. Bob.
It is my great pleasure to declare you the new UFC heavyweight champion of the world in one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. Congratulations, Boss Rutten.
As all our champions know, once they get to wear that belt, it fits perfectly.
Well, Boss, first and foremost, congratulations on the championship. That must have been on your mind as you were standing there with Big John McCarthy, the referee, and Randleman, as to who won that fight. What do you think is the difference?
Randleman did really good the first round, and then he broke my nose, and I was considering quitting because I'm a little afraid of that. And then I think, fuck it, man, I'm going these last 2 rounds going to be my rounds. Even when he takes me down, I'm going to punch him. He'll not hit me. That's what I just did. I just unloaded.
Do you feel it was your striking from your back, from him inside your guard, that really led to this victory?
Yes. I stroked the second round, third round much more than him. I went for submission, almost got him, the choke. He got out, and I got the armbar, but he was too slippery. And then punches and elbows, and constantly. I just threw everything out what I got.
Did you feel he was going to be that successful with his takedown attempts? You spent almost that entire time being taken down by him and fighting from your back.
Yeah, you know what happened? In the beginning, he didn't run away from my punching and kicking. And then he tricked me, because then I went for the kicks. And I thought I broke his rib with a liver kick, because I saw a rib popping out. And the liver kick was real hard. And that was what he got tired of, I think, in the second round. In the beginning of the second round, I gave him the liver kick. And then he went down. And then I started hitting him on the liver and punching, and I didn't stop.
At any time, did you feel that the cut on your nose and the blood from that cut affecting your vision cause you problems and make you feel as though this wasn't going to be the outcome that you wanted?
Yeah, I was afraid because, like John said, I couldn't see anything. I said, John, I don't see anything. My eye was full of blood, but I've clipped it out. This contact lens was out. Everything went wrong, but I saw blur and I just started hitting on it.
Well, Boss, you showed more than heart in this. You showed the heart of a champion. You showed the spirit of the warrior. You're considered one of the greatest mixed martial artists in the world. You now have the greatest belt in mixed martial arts in the world, the UFC heavyweight title. What's next for Boss Rutten?
I don't know. Continue. Defend the title. And before I forget, I have to thank people in Colorado, Bing, and all the people from Champion Martial Arts. Again, Aslan Institute, all my friends here. I'm here, everybody here, everybody. My manager, my trainer, everybody made it for me that I got to this condition.
Well, we want to wish you the very best from all of us here in SCG. We want to wish you congratulations on your new championship.
Can I say one
Very
more thing?
good, sure.
Lance Boyd, thanks for the videotapes, man. And Mom, Dad, and my wife, I love you all, and my baby, of course. Thanks.
Stay right there. I'm now here with Mark Coleman, manager here of Kevin Randleman. Your thoughts on the decision, Mark?
I'm terribly disappointed right now. It's a devastating loss for me and for Kevin as well, I'm sure. You just don't know how hard a person trains for something like this. And it looked to me like he clearly had won the fight. Look at Bass's face, look at Kevin's face. He almost had to stop the fight a few times. It's a very tough loss, but I'm not going to take nothing away from Boss. He fought the whole time, but clearly I thought we won the fight.
You feel Randleman controlled the situation, kept him down on the ground, controlled him on the ground, and early on was striking effectively?
He struck very effectively early on. He had at least 4 or 5 takedowns, which that's not an easy thing to do. 5 takedowns, it's very difficult. That should score some points right there. You know, I guess they score them kicks. They value them kicks too much. They don't really hurt. But look at the guy's face and look at Kevin's face. Clearly.
Well, our best to Kevin Randleman. Thank you, Mark Coleman. Back to you, Mike.
Well, thank you very much. Gracious in victory, gracious in defeat. The camp of Mark Coleman and Kevin Randleman, disappointed in the decision, but nonetheless, I will tell you what, it was a great battle between Kevin Randleman and Boss Rutten that goes the distance, all 21 minutes. And Randleman, very aggressive, broke the nose of Boss Rutten, but when the night was over and the judge's decision was rendered, it was none other than Boss Rutten at 34 years old who reigns supreme and wins the UFC Heavyweight Championship.
Tremendous fight there. Certainly a discrepancy in the way some of the people reacted to the judge's decision. I myself thought Randleman controlled much of that fight. However, Rutten was effective, striking from the bottom. But controversial decision, but our new champion, Boss Rutten, certainly a tough fighter, showed the heart and the spirit of a warrior.
Well, you cannot doubt the heart or the spirit of either of those warriors. And the job done by our referee, John McCarthy, to make sure that Boss Rutten wanted to continue, that the ultimate safety would be of the ultimate importance in tonight's matchup. But these guys are truly made of something very special. It's guts, it's glory, it's passion, it's pain. But you want to talk about warriors. 2 battled for the greatest prize in mixed martial arts here tonight. What a way to cap off a great night once again in one of our favorite cities of Birmingham.